Chapter 126. The afternoon sun scorched the pedestrians on the streets of Chang and city. They looked listless as if they had been hit by frost. Zhang Feng was sitting on a deck chair under a crooked tree in front of the tavern. He was fanning himself with a cattail leaf fan. Beside his mouth was a hemp rope as thick as a thumb. On the hemp rope was an iron wine flask that Zhang Feng had spent a lot of money to make. The wine flask was not big. It was about the size of a palm, but it was long and narrow. It looked like a gourd. However, only Zhang Feng knew that this thing looked like a beer bottle in his memory from his previous life. However, on the side of the bottle, there was a long and thin spout that showed its extraordinariness. Just like Zhang Feng, who was assimilating into the Tang Dynasty. He could take a sip of the wine just by waving his cattail leaf fan twice. His days were indescribably comfortable. He missed the days when Lao Li and the others were around. To be honest, Zhang Feng was a person who was afraid of loneliness. However, he was also afraid of being drowned in the torrent of history. Therefore, he was unwilling and despised the people of Chang, and who were full of fleas and smelled of sweat. Whenever Lao Li came, he was the happiest. Other than that, he spent most of his time napping under the crooked tree in front of the tavern. He hoped that one day a transmigrator would recognize the wine flask and cry. However, he did not see a transmigrator. Instead, he saw a fat face. Zhang Feng was so shocked that he spat out the wine that he just drank. Cough, cough, cough. Old son. You cough, cough, cough. When did you come? Where's Lao Li? When he finally came back to his senses, he walked past Zhang Sun Wuji. He did not see Lao Li. This was strange. This was the first time. Other than when they came with Lao Li, this was the first time that Old Sun came without Lao Li's knowledge. However, it was good that Old Sun was here. Old Sun was a smart person. He was witty and shrewd. This was how a businessman should be. Zhang Sun Wuji closed his eyes and gave a fist salute. Brother Zhang Feng, I didn't disturb your sleep, did I? What are you bothering me for? How can I be so bored? Come on, let's go in and drink. As he spoke, Zhang Feng dragged the recliner and Zhang Sun into the tavern. However, Zhang Sun Wuji's eyes were fixed on the pot and the recliner. In fact, Zhang Sun Wuji had arrived a long time ago. However, when he saw such a strangely shaped chair that could sway on its own and looked extremely comfortable, he could not help but be tempted. He could not help but sit at a tea stall opposite Zhang Feng and drink tea while looking at his chair. It was at this moment that he noticed the shiny and strangely shaped pot. Looking at Zhang Feng's relaxed appearance, he could not sit still any longer. At this time, while Zhang Feng was not aware, he stuffed the pot into his arms. Today in the tavern. Zhang Feng's chatterbox was opened. He took out a high-quality bag of salt-fried beans and a plate of braised tofu from the counter. Then he took out 2 small wine glasses and asked, "What did Lao Li do today?" Zhang Sun Wuji was speechless. "What? You don't welcome me now that Lao Li is not here?" Zhang Feng waved his hands. No, what are you talking about? Don't you guys come with Old Li every time? Today I didn't see Lao Li, so I was a little surprised. Come, little brother, I'll drink as punishment." As he spoke, Zhang Feng drank a full cup. Inadvertently, he saw Zhang Sun Wuji's bulging chest and pointed, "Don't tell me you stole your family's bag?" Zhang Sun Wuji's face stiffened. "What are you talking about? I came here today mainly to talk about the banknotes. This matter is a little big. Lao Li and Old Wei went to the leader's mansion to discuss the cooperation. That's why I came here." As he spoke, Zhang Sun Wuji narrowed his eyes and rubbed his hands. "I heard that last time you praised Lord Zhang Sun to Lao Li?" Zhang Sun Wuji was looking forward to it. At his age, there was no way for him to be promoted. What he cared about the most was his reputation, especially when it came from the mouth of a virtuous person like Zhang Feng. Ever since Wei Zhi gained the reputation of being a virtuous sage, he was so arrogant that Zhang Sun Wuji wanted to slap him from behind. Now he wanted to hear how Zhang Feng praised him. This was not a secret. Zhang Feng took a sip of wine and chewed on the beans, making a crunching sound. "Lord Zhang Sun? Lord Zhang Sun is a rare good official in the Ministry of Justice. The Ministry of Justice is an offending job. It's the Emperor's wisdom to give him the job. As for this Zhang Sun Wuji, if I may say something disrespectful, this fellow was originally from the Chang nation. However, for him to be able to climb to this step, half of it is because of his strategy, and the other half is his personal charm. It can be said that he's the most charming person in the court." "Good. Well said." Zhang Sun Wuji really wanted to drag Zhang Feng to those old geezers and let them listen to him. "This is what you call a good friend." Zhang Sun Wuji could not help but ask again, "Other than official matters, I came here today to ask you about a private matter." "Please speak." Zhang Feng was very curious. It's like this. Lao Li is preparing to let his sons come here to learn about business. After all, you know that we're all rough people. Come. The wine glass in Zhang Feng's hand fell to the ground with a thud. He asked in a trembling voice, Lao Li, he has sons? Chapter 127. Zhang Feng's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. He couldn't help but reveal his curiosity. Hey old son, how many wives does Lao Li have? How many sons does he have? Does he have a daughter? How old are his sons? How old is his oldest daughter? What does she look like? He asked a few questions in a row. Zhang Sun Wuji was dumbfounded. This guy didn't know that the emperor had a child? He asked so many questions in detail. Was he thinking of, could it be that Wei Zheng was right? This guy was thinking of love? Otherwise, why would he think of the emperor's daughter so much? He shouldn't have such thoughts. Now that he thought about it, he really came up with something. He had been so attentive from the beginning. Could it be that he was aiming for the princess from the beginning? Zhang Sun Wuji couldn't help but look at Zhang Feng in a different way. Zhang Feng couldn't stand this kind of scrutinizing gaze. He smiled embarrassedly. I'm just curious. Lao Li looks like he's in his 20s or 30s. I didn't expect him to have a child. But on second thought, Zhang Feng instantly felt that he was an idiot. This was ancient times. Damn it. This was the most prosperous Tang dynasty in the feudal era. At this time, although the law stipulated that men could only get married at the age of 18 and women at the age of 16, many rich people, influential people, and villagers got married at the age of 13 or 14. Thinking of this, how old was Lao Li's son? He didn't dare to think. Zhang Sun Wuji also let down his guard amidst his suspicions. The emperor's daughter was his niece. How could it be so easy to be his niece's son-in-law? But when Zhang Feng said this, Zhang Sun Wuji slowly let down his guard. He said, actually, you also know that for people like us, marriage is basically decided by our parents. It has nothing to do with us. Lao Li's eldest son is 12 this year. There are 3 more who are between 10 and 12 years old. When Zhang Feng counted with his fingers which yearly Shimin would get married, Zhang Sun Wuji said speechlessly, I'm talking about serious matters. Oh, okay, go ahead. Lao Li is thinking about this matter. It hasn't been decided yet, but I think it's very likely. Zhang Feng had a headache. I do lack friends. But this Lao Li, you can't trick me, right? At the very least, I've taught you so many things that have been passed down from generation to generation, and you actually want to fool me with your son? Seeing Zhang Feng grumbling but not rejecting the offer, Zhang Sun Wuji's eyes gleamed. So you're saying that you agree? 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 Who are you trying to fool? Zhang Feng was about to explode. Lao Tzu was lonely. If you're so capable, you can find me 100 Hu women. If not, you can even invite one of the top singers in Spring Breeze. Isn't it nice to listen to music when you have nothing to do? You're giving me a bunch of naked dolls. Do you want me to be the head of the dolls? Although he was grumbling, he knew what Lao Li meant. This matter had to wait for Lao Li to come. He had to find a random reason to fool him. Otherwise, he didn't want to be followed by a bunch of snots all day long and have to clean up after them. Thinking about it, Zhang Feng felt a chill run down his spine. When Zhang Sun Wuji saw this, he thought that Zhang Feng had agreed. He couldn't help but roll his eyes and start sobbing. This time Zhang Feng was curious. I say, old son, are you saying that Lao Li stirred you up or that your wife beat you up? If you're beaten up by your wife, I can't do anything about it, but I have a trick up my sleeve. I guarantee that I'll be able to tame your wife with just one move. No. Zhang Sun Wuji wiped the sweat off his forehead. He sighed and said, speaking of which, I'm 43 years old this year. I have 4 sons in my family, but they're all good for nothings. They even have the nickname, stubborn in Chang and city. Don't you think that old man is bitterly disappointed? Tell me, if one day I were to kick the bucket, would I be able to hand over this huge family business to him? Stubborn? The most stubborn person in Chang and city, Zhang Sun, isn't even worried about Lao Tzu. What are you worried about? Hearing that, Zhang Sun Wuji wanted to grab Zhang Feng by the collar, point at his nose and roar. I'm the most stubborn father. Alas. Thinking of that, Zhang Sun Wuji sighed again. Logically speaking, my eldest son is already 17 or 18 years old, but he's always fooling around. As his father, I'm always busy with business matters. His mother passed away early. Ouch. Old son, I beg you to stop talking. When you cry like this, my heart feels terrible. Zhang Feng was completely annoyed. He hurriedly stopped old son and asked him to stop talking. Don't worry about this. I need to think about it. Don't provoke me. I don't want to pass on my skills to others for 100 years. We'll talk about it when I become an official. The speaker was trying to fool Zhang Sun Wuji, but in Zhang Sun Wuji's ears, it was a completely different story. What was this guy talking about? He still wanted to go to the bureaucracy. That's easy. The Ministry of Personnel is a good place to go. As long as you want to go, I'll sign it for you today so that they won't snatch you away. Thinking of that, Zhang Sun Wuji immediately stopped crying and looked at Zhang Feng with a smile that resembled a chrysanthemum flower. Brother Zhang Feng, think about the Ministry of Personnel? Chapter 128. The Ministry of Personnel? Zhang Feng looked at Zhang Sun Wuji as if he was looking at a monster. Zhang Sun Wuji felt goosebumps all over his body. Brother Zhang Feng, the Ministry of Personnel, that's a good place. You said it yourself. It's under the jurisdiction of the Lord Zhang Sun. We're working with the Lord Zhang Sun now. If you want to go, I can get it done for you right away. I'm not going. He did not even think about it. Zhang Feng pursed his lips and shattered Zhang Sun Wuji's plan. Didn't you say that the Ministry of Personnel is good? That's the department that governs all the officials in the world. Which department doesn't have to bow down to the people from the Ministry of Personnel? You don't know. The Ministry of Personnel is a place where you can drink tea, read books, and even take a nap when you're free. No one cares about it. It's definitely a good place to go. I'm not going. You said that it's a place where only people who are waiting to die are willing to stay. Look. As he spoke, Zhang Feng pointed at his own nose and said, I'm such a brilliant, powerful and handsome young man. You want me to go to the Ministry of Personnel and wait for death? Are you kidding me? Old son. I think you're very smart when it comes to business, but when it comes to official matters, the more I look at you, the more I feel that there's something wrong with you. Zhang Feng pointed at his head as he spoke. Zhang Sun Wuji spat out a mouthful of blood when he heard that. Damn it. Didn't you just say that the Ministry of Personnel was good? Besides, what's wrong with the Ministry of Personnel? Wouldn't everyone want to sharpen their heads to get in? Why is it that when it comes to you, it's a piece of sh*t? Is the Ministry of Personnel so disliked by you? Zhang Sun Wuji was very hurt. For the first time he doubted the Ministry of Personnel that he was so proud of. That's enough. Don't think too much about it. I'll go when it's time. Zhang Feng comforted the injured Zhang Sun Wuji. Actually, the Ministry of Personnel Affairs was not as bad as he made it out to be. It was just a bunch of old men. Besides, that was a place that offended people. If you wanted to demote them, why don't you try? For someone like him who had no status, background, or even identity, he would be gnawed to the bone in less than 3 days. However, there was nothing to say now. Let's talk about it later. Sigh. It's all because of this damn system. When are you going to activate it? Half a year? How long has it been? 7 months. The more he thought about it, the angrier Zhang Feng got. He decided not to think about it anymore. He asked, Oh right, you said that Lao Li went to Zhang Xuan's residence? Does that mean His Majesty has allowed it? Yes. Once they got back to business, Zhang Sun Wuji's face immediately turned serious. It's like this. Lord Zhang Sun and His Majesty have already discussed this matter last night. Now Lao Li and Old Wei are discussing the detailed deployment of the matter at Lord Zhang Xuan's residence. The palace's painter worked overnight to draw a few samples of banknotes. Lao Li was worried and asked me to come over to you to take a look. As he spoke, Zhang Sun Wuji took out a piece of paper from his pocket. He carefully spread it out in front of Zhang Feng. Zhang Feng was very pleased with this. He was still wondering if Lao Li and the others could handle Lord Zhang Sun with their intelligence. But now it seemed that he was overthinking. The current emperor was also someone who lacked money. Why would he not earn money when there was money? Was he stupid? Zhang Feng took the paper, but the next moment he was stunned. F***ck. What the F***ck? Who the F***ck drew this? Zhang Feng exploded. What was drawn on this paper? It looked like a product of the Heaven and Earth Bank, but upon closer inspection, it wasn't banknotes? Who drew this? Zhang Feng's expression was serious. He suspected that the person who drew this was a time traveler. I heard that it was drawn by Fang Xianling. Fang Xianling? Is Fang Xianling a time traveler? Zhang Feng was dumbfounded. But after thinking about it, it didn't make sense. If he was really a transmigrator, then the progress of the great Tang and the things that he had implemented were all things that could be found anywhere in the modern era. If he was really a transmigrator, he would have done it long ago. Why would he wait for him? Besides, if Fang Xianling was a time traveler, he would have come to find him long ago. He wouldn't have dug such a big hole for him now. He thought about it. In the end, Zhang Feng gritted his teeth and sighed. He rejected the guess in his heart. The wisdom of the ancients. It was really powerful. It was terrifying. Zhang Sun Wuji was also given a huge fright. He had never seen Zhang Feng react so strongly. Could it be that this thing didn't work? If it didn't work, there was no need for such a reaction, right? Could it be, this drawing had a lot to do with Zhang Feng? Only this could make Zhang Feng lose his composure. In the past, he had always been calm and collected, as if he had the whole situation under control. It was rare to see him in such a state. However, after thinking about it again and again, this was something that Fang Xianling had found out from his treasures of calligraphy. For a moment, Zhang Sun Wuji didn't know what to do. After a long time, he saw Zhang Feng staring at the drawing in a daze. He couldn't help but ask carefully, "Brother Zhang Feng, is this thing okay? Also, could it be that this map is very important to you?" Chapter 129. What does it have to do with me? Of course it has to be. This was the money that he had worked hard for in his previous life. How could he not recognize it? However, after confirming that this thing was drawn by Fang Xianling after he saw his own words, Zhang Feng suddenly felt that Fang Xianling was a celestial being. When he had time, if he entered the imperial court as an official, he would have to pay him a visit. "Brother Zhang Feng? Brother Zhang Feng?" Seeing that Zhang Feng was surprised and even laughed from time to time, Zhang Sun Wuji was a little worried and waved his hand twice. "I'm fine, I just feel that this drawing is really good." Zhang Feng put down the drawing, smacked his lips, picked up a fried bean and threw it into his mouth. He looked at Zhang Sun Wuji curiously and said, "You're starting on this now?" "Yes. This is Lao Li's idea. After all, if we can get it done earlier we can see the benefits earlier, right?" Zhang Feng did not express his opinion, which was rare. Zhang Sun Wuji could not help but feel a little worried. "Is there a reason behind this? Brother Zhang Feng, what are you worried about?" "Nothing, but let me give you a piece of advice. If this matter is not done by the current emperor or Zhang Sun Wuji, you can't do it." Zhang Sun Wuji was speechless. "Can't you say it all at once?" However, Zhang Sun Wuji also silently calculated in his heart. Although Zhang Feng said a lot of things and a lot of things, it was very messy. However, if these points were strung together, then everything was so sharp. For example, the matter he said just now, it seemed to be nothing at first, but after thinking about it carefully, it really made Zhang Sun Wuji break out in a cold sweat. "Brother Zhang Feng, do you mean that if the Lord Zhang Sun or the authorities don't make a move, and we make a move, we'll be overstepping our authority?" Although Zhang Sun Wuji felt a little awkward, he thought about it. Although the emperor had said it, it was just a casual remark. The specific matters had not been decided yet. If he hurried to arrange it at this time, then Zhang Feng nodded. "Old son, you're a smart man. You'll understand the logic behind this matter after a little bit. He's much better than Lao Li. Let me tell you something else, the tallest tree in the forest will be destroyed by the wind. Now was not the time for that. There must be an opportunity before taking action." "What opportunity?" Zhang Sun Wuji really couldn't think of this. He hurriedly poured a bowl of wine for Zhang Feng and looked at Zhang Feng eagerly, trying to dispel his doubts. Zhang Feng fiddled with the fried beans on the plate and said, "The opportunity is the plague of locusts." "What? The plague of locusts?" Zhang Sun Wuji was a little confused. "Isn't the plague of locusts under control? According to your method, the locusts in Longyu will basically be extinct. Even if there are a few locusts now, they won't be able to do anything." "You're wrong." Zhang Feng pointed at his head and asked, "Think carefully. What did I say before? I've been talking about the plague of locusts next year." Zhang Sun Wuji was dumbfounded. His face was full of confusion. Could he really predict what would happen next year? How could Zhang Feng predict what would happen next year? He only knew from his memory that the plague of locusts in Longyu was rampant in the 3rd year of Jingguan. The people of the Tang Dynasty had no way to make a living, and many of the surrounding countries were affected. He only knew this from this little bit of Tang history. Moreover, in the future, anyone who knew a little about Baidu would know about this matter. He was the most talented student in history. How could he not know about this period of history? Combined with the current drought in Longyu and the speed of drought prevention in the surrounding countries, he guessed that the drought next year would probably be unstoppable. "Let me tell you carefully one more time." Zhang Feng looked at Zhang Sun Wuji, who was eager to learn from him. "The drought this year is basically over. But look, it's already June. How much rain does Longyu and Chang and city have?" "No." "Yes." Zhang Sun Wuji seemed to want to say something, but in the end, it turned into a long gasp of cold air. "Don't mention it. This year from March until now the rain in Chang and has been pitifully low. If you didn't mention it, I would have forgotten about it. Let's not talk about Chang'an. Basically, the rain in the Tang Dynasty this year is almost half of what it was last year. Even after such a long time, there is not even a shadow of rain in Longyu. Zhang Sun Wuji did not dare to say anything more. At this time his face was already pale. Brother Zhang Feng, do you mean that the drought in Longyu is not over yet? It will continue until this time next year? If that's what you're saying, then isn't everything we're doing now a little too? God. Will the locusts really be rampant next year? When we heard you mention the plague of locusts, we always thought that it would happen this year. We've always been trying to prevent it. But now if that's really the case, then wouldn't all our previous preparations be in vain? Zhang Sun Wuji was really anxious. If that was the case, why did they not want food before? Why did they have to talk so much with Tubo? Now there was such a big problem. Now what would they do in the future? Zhang Feng on the other hand was much calmer. He patted Zhang Sun Wuji on the shoulder and said, "Brother, calm down. Let me tell you. Since you came to me about this, I will do it. Do you think I will cheat you? What should we do about this?" Zhang Sun Wuji spread his hands. Zhang Feng raised his wine bowl and said indifferently, "This is not urgent for now. Let me tell you next time." Chapter 130. How could he not be anxious about this? It would be strange if he wasn't. If people knew about this, the consequences would be unimaginable. No wonder he said that before the emperor took action, they couldn't do anything. If he was really a businessman, he wouldn't have dared to take action. Who would dare to take action at this time? Their whole family would be annihilated. Although Zhang Sun Wuji wasn't a businessman, he couldn't stand up to the civil and military officials in the court. "Brother, don't keep me in suspense. I know you're awesome and you have a way, but we can't." Zhang Sun Wuji was so anxious that he almost jumped on the wall. As for Zhang Feng, he was still leisurely drinking and eating the stir-fried beans. Those beans were crunching non-stop in his mouth, and Zhang Sun Wuji was also extremely anxious. He wanted Zhang Feng to choke to death on the beans. "Brother, tell me, do your previous arrangements have a lot to do with this locust plague?" "Yes. Think about it. If we don't do anything about this year's locust plague, what will you do when the locusts come out and I say that they will cause a devastating disaster? If we don't do anything about it this year, even if the Daluo Immortal descends next year, he will turn around and run away. Do you believe me?" Zhang Feng was speechless. Even the emperor wasn't anxious. Why would a little commoner like you be anxious? Zhang Sun Wuji seemed to understand something. But he was still a little confused. And he was even more shocked by Zhang Feng's control of the whole situation. Was this the control of the whole situation? Let me explain it to you. Zhang Sun Wuji was a little confused. He counted with his fingers and said, "This matter during the drought, were you planning all this?" "Then, Tubo, according to your method, the emperor is only taking money now. Does that mean the emperor's intention is the same?" "Yes." Zhang Feng gave him a thumbs up. "You're finally enlightened. Who is the emperor?" "That's an emperor for all eternity. As I've said before, if this matter succeeds, the Tang Dynasty will have an endless supply of cheap, free labor to store grain for the Tang Dynasty bit by bit. What if it fails?" Zhang Feng shrugged and said, "Do you think Tubo can still get off the pirate ship under the current circumstances?" Zhang Sun Wuji was shocked. A setup. Everything was a setup. From a blueprint, they had firmly tied Tubo to the belt of the Tang Dynasty. Then they had let him drill his head in bit by bit. Then they had squeezed out this year's grain bit by bit. Zhang Sun Wuji finally understood why Zhang Feng wanted a year's worth of food. Next year, when the locust plague breaks out, Tubo will not have any food. What a vicious plan. But why did Lao Tzu like it so much? Have you figured it out? Seeing Zhang Sun Wuji's enlightened face, Zhang Feng asked with a smile. He was like an old faker. A small businessman was a small businessman. His control of the overall situation still did not achieve the effect he expected. However, Zhang Feng did not intend to let Lao Li think it through. He was just too bored, so he said it casually. As for how much benefits they could reap from it and how much property they could save, it was none of Zhang Feng's business. As a friend, he had said enough. "Old son, you have to keep this matter a secret. If this matter gets out, even if Zhang Sun Wuji and the emperor don't kill you, the people and those idle officials in the court will kill you." I know. Zhang Sun Wuji was sweating profusely. He naturally knew the stakes of this matter. He had not lived long enough. Also, this matter still has a year's time. I reckon that His Majesty is probably already preparing to stock up on grain. Store up as many resources as you can. Don't use all of your belongings to stock up on grain. Be careful that you don't have the life to spend it. I'm also taking into account your temper. Otherwise, I wouldn't be bothered to talk about something like this. As he spoke, Zhang Feng's finger tapped slowly on the table as if he was lecturing a student. Although this was just a simple action in Zhang Sun Wuji's eyes, this was King teaching a student. He only lacked a hand to pat him on the head. Brother Zhang Feng, I can't repay your kindness. But I've taken the matter of the beautiful women to heart. Unfortunately, they are all mediocre beauties now. I guess little brother won't be interested in them. So, big brother and I are all thinking of ways to help you find those top-notch beauties within our capabilities. What was going on? Old son, when did I ask for beauties? Zhang Sun Wuji revealed a knowing expression. He took out a large amount of silver and placed it on the table. Then he clasped his fist and said, I still have urgent matters to attend to. That's all for today. Next time I'll definitely prepare a big gift for you. I'll let my son deliver it personally. What did he mean? Hey, old son. What do you mean by beauties? I didn't say I wanted beauties. Also, I don't accept disciples. Don't bring your son here. If you want, bring your daughter here and serve me tea. Without waiting for Zhang Feng to finish, Zhang Sun Wuji stumbled and fled in a hurry. After Zhang Sun Wuji left, Zhang Feng looked at the swaying hemp rope on the willow tree at the door. He suddenly remembered why Zhang Sun Wuji's chest was bulging. So, this bastard stole my wine jug? This was the iron pot that he had spent 3 rounds of money to get someone to water it. 3 rounds of money? However, looking at the few gold leaves among the silver pieces on the table, Zhang Feng stopped himself from chasing after Zhang Sun Wuji. Next time I'll hide the good stuff well. Chapter 131. Reporting. Your Majesty, Duke Zhao requests an audience. Summon him. In the Imperial Study. Li Shimin was discussing with Wei Zheng and the others how to deal with Tubo and the unrest at the Turkic border. At this moment, Zhang Sun Wuji hurried into the Imperial Study. Your Majesty. Greetings, Your Majesty. Please rise, Duke Zhao. Li Shimin personally helped Zhang Sun Wuji up and asked, how did it go? It's done. Zhang Feng thinks that the banknotes are feasible. I also noticed that Zhang Feng's emotions fluctuated greatly when he saw the banknotes. I suspect that he knows what the banknotes are. Oh. Li Shimin was shocked. He had always thought that Zhang Feng's emotions would never fluctuate in the slightest. However, how could such a small banknote cause such a huge fluctuation in his emotions? Your Majesty, we have to put this matter aside for a while. Oh? What? Lord Zhang Sun, isn't this something we've discussed long ago? Why do we have to put it aside now? If we had done this earlier, it would have brought about unexpected benefits. Wei Jing, Fang Xianling and Li Shimin were all shocked. Obviously, this was not Zhang Suan's idea but Zhang Feng's. Do you remember the plague of locusts that Zhang Feng mentioned? Of course. Didn't we hear from Long Yu that the plague of locusts is almost over? Li Shimin was also shocked. How did this matter relate to the plague of locusts? No. Your Majesty, please let me finish. Zhang Sun Wuji interrupted the discussion with a grave expression. The plague of locusts has been stopped. However, the plague of locusts that Zhang Feng mentioned is the plague of locusts next year. What? Next year? Do you mean that next year? Li Shimin clapped his hands and said, oh no. I remember now. Zhang Feng has been talking about the plague of locusts next year. This time everyone was dumbstruck. That's right. What Zhang Feng meant was that if the plague of locusts is not stopped this year, even the gods would not be able to save us next year. This year, only a small part of the locusts have been eliminated. Moreover, from Zhang Feng's words, I noticed that since the beginning of the year, even the area around Chang and city has been less than last year. Think about it, how many times has it rained Chang and city this year? How many times has it rained? This time, Li Shimin and the others' faces turned completely pale. But when he thought about it carefully, he couldn't figure it out. In the end, Zhang Sun Wuji slowly sorted out everything that Zhang Feng had analyzed from the very beginning. From the reason why they wanted money and not food, to the appearance of salt, and then to the cooperative, all of these seemed to form a strong connection. Stimulate the economy. Stimulate the people's production. Could it be, was there really a plague of locusts? Li Shimin was a little confused. Your Majesty, this old subject remembers that Brother Zhang Feng said that there would be a plague of locusts next year. Now, the Turkic Kaganate's snowstorm has passed, but the frozen water has left the Turkic plains barren. This is exactly what Zhang Feng said. Wei Zheng summed up the situation and said, with this analysis, Li Shimin and the others finally understood why the Turkic border was so lively at this time. It turned out that, were they going to make a big move? If that was the case, whether it was the salt or the cooperative, they had to wait for a while. Then, did Zhang Feng say what we should do about this? Li Shimin asked with a serious face. This? Zhang Sun Wuji Yunxuan's face turned pale. After this old subject heard the news, I hurried back to inform him. He didn't ask more. He only said that if we want to get the banknotes and the cooperative, we need an opportunity. Is he talking about the locust plague? Yes. Li Shimin Yunxian was silent. With his hands behind his back, he walked around the imperial study for a long time. Then he said, "What else did he say?" "Nothing." Zhang Sun Wuji Yunxian thought for a while and said, "He said not to use all of our belongings to hoard food." Food? Li Shimin Yunxuan's eyes lit up. That's right. Everything was for the sake of food. From solving the problem of Tubo to setting a trap, to waiting for Tubo and Tuyuhun to come again, it was all for this matter. Could it be that Zhang Feng was really a 1,000-year-old monster? Even though Li Shimin Yunxian didn't believe this. However, Zhang Feng's overall view of the situation made him a little shocked. It was too scary. He also understood that although there was still a year before the next locust plague, the matter of hoarding food, as Zhang Feng said, couldn't be too publicized. My dear subjects, if we want to hoard food, what do you think we should do now? Everyone was silent. Fang Xianling, who had been silent all this time, and Du Ruhui Yunxian whispered to each other. Then he said, "Your Majesty, this old subject thinks that we should follow Brother Zhang Feng's words. We think that this way." Immediately, Fang Xianling and Du Ruhui Yunxian discussed the matter in detail with Li Shimin Yunxian for 2 hours. Then Li Shimin Yunxian gave the order with a solemn expression. "You also know the serious consequences of this matter. From today onwards, take out all of the 40 million gold and secretly purchase food. Privately hoard food and order all the prefectures to strictly control the food and hoard food for me." Yes, Your Majesty. Chapter 132. The work of stockpiling grain in Chang and city was quietly in full swing. In the past 3 days, even if no one in Chang and city deliberately publicized the news, it had spread like wildfire. The price of grain, which was originally 10 copper coins per caddy, suddenly soared to 13 copper coins. And this was the price after the government had banned it. If the government had not intervened, who knew how much the price of this thing would have skyrocketed? Although Zhang Feng had already stored a large amount of rice and noodles in the small tavern, he could not help but sigh when he saw the sea of people in the rice shop at this time. This damned epidemic. Then, carrying half a bag of rice and noodles, he sauntered toward the small tavern. Along the way, what Zhang Feng saw were all panic-stricken people rushing to grab the rice, and groups of people wearing strange clothes who were rushing to Chang, and with goods full of astonishment. Seeing this, Zhang Feng could not help but frown. These people seemed to have increased a lot in the past few days. Was the emperor going to make a big move? Could it be that Lao Li and the others had arranged it? Zhang Feng was a little surprised. Zhang Feng squatted in front of a stall as he looked at the teams of cars that returned with full loads of goods and the Western regioners who were squatting by the side of the street, guarding strange glass bottles or gemstones. Honorable customer of the Tang Dynasty, you have good taste. This is a rare gem in the Western regions. It is very strong and, how much is it? Zhang Feng knew about this pink diamond the size of a broad bean. He asked without changing his expression. He did not expect to see this thing in the Tang Dynasty. This thing was called a diamond, and in some places, it was also called a diamond. In the future, such a big pink diamond would cost at least 6 figures. Secretly suppressing the excitement in his heart, he pretended to be quiet in the stall and looked for other glass products. No. In this era, it was called colored glass. Trash. All of it was trash. It was even worse than the defective products produced by a small glass factory in the future. Honorable customer, if you really wanted 100 copper coins. Alas. Honorable customer. Please wait. Hearing that it was 100 copper coins, Zhang Feng turned around and left. Damn it. Although it was not expensive, he should not act so arrogantly, right? He turned around and left. But before he could take more than 2 steps, a bearded middle-aged merchant from the western regions, who had a serious body odor, grabbed Zhang Feng and mysteriously took out a black diamond from his pocket, as well as 3 slightly smaller diamonds. He said with a painful expression, "Honorable customer, I've traveled a long way. 100 copper coins, these are all yours." Seeing that Zhang Feng was about to leave impatiently, the vendor reached out and stuffed the diamond into Zhang Feng's hand. Zhang Feng raised an eyebrow. Deal. Under the suspicious expression of the barbarian vendor, he tossed down 100 copper coins and quickly left. Damn it. Fortunately, the people in this world did not know the use of these things. If they knew, these diamonds would be priceless even if they were worth 300 taels of gold, let alone 100 copper coins. Zhang Feng stared at the pink and black diamonds in his hand. Dozens of plans to make a fortune had already been hatched in his mind. Everyone loved beauty. If this thing was hyped up, its value would be. Not only that, Zhang Feng had many other things that needed this thing to be cut. For example, sunglasses. After Zhang Feng left, the barbarian man dug out another handful of diamonds from the soles of his shoes and placed them on the shelf again. If Zhang Feng saw this, he would definitely give this unscrupulous merchant a good scolding. At this time, Zhang Feng happily took a few diamonds and went to the blacksmith shop again. He paid the price of 50 copper coins and asked the shopkeeper of the blacksmith shop to polish the 5 iron kettles he watered until they shone brightly. This time he did not have to worry about them robbing him anymore. He took the pot and wrapped it up. Then, he dragged the recliner and lay down under the crooked tree in front of the tavern again. He listened to the hubbub of people shouting and drinking the wine in the pot with relish. What a comfortable life. However, when Zhang Feng closed his eyes, he started to feel puzzled. At this time, there were many barbarian merchants coming and going in and out of Chang'an City. This was not normal. What exactly was abnormal? Zhang Feng thought carefully in his mind. In June of the second year of Jingguan Temple, it seemed that there were no major events in Chang'an City. What was going on? So many foreign merchants, were they all here to ask for water carts? That was not necessary, right? The news about Tubo would not spread so quickly. That was not right. Zhang Feng seemed to have thought of something. The fan in his hand suddenly stopped fanning. He could not help but murmur, Li Yuan's birthday seems to be. Damn it. Who are you? Just as he was about to guess why so many people were here at this time, Zhang Feng suddenly felt a dark shadow and the stench of sweat suddenly enveloped him. He slowly opened his eyes, only to see a black shadow that was only an inch away from him. That person just stared at his wine jug with a pair of wide eyes. Zhang Feng was scared out of his wits. Zhang Feng's exclamation also scared that person into retreating. Then he squatted and sat on the ground. Zhang Feng did not care. He sat up and stared at the person. With a gloomy face he asked, "Who are you?" Chapter 133. He was standing in front of Zhang Feng. One of them was wearing clothes similar to those of the Tang Dynasty, but there were many silver ornaments. His head was wrapped in a large linen cloth, which was decorated with rows of pearls. Humans were so dark and gloomy. He looked about 20 years old. Was a man. Behind the man, there was a similarly tanned woman. She agilely pulled the man up as soon as he fell. Both of them were wearing expensive clothes, compared to the group of sweaty servants behind them. At first, Zhang Feng thought that the person who fell to the ground would curse or something when he got up. But he didn't. After the man fell, he hurriedly got up, looked at Zhang Feng with burning eyes, and gave him a bow that he didn't understand. He said, "Sawadika." What the hell? What the hell? A transmigrated? Zhang Feng was confused by the words, Sawadika. What was that? Could it be? It seemed that they saw Zhang Feng was confused. The man who was wearing crocodile leather boots and was as black as coal waved his hand to make the angry people behind him shut up. Then he said, "Honorable people of the Tang Dynasty, I am the Prince of Jinla. My name is Lama Shiva. This is my sister Lama Dala. We are the Prince and Princess of Jinla." Lama Shiva, who was the leader, explained to Zi Feng in a clumsy Tang Dynasty language. But Zhang Feng's mind was still roaring. Sawadika. This was the place he had always been fascinated by. He didn't expect to see them in the Tang Dynasty. He looked at the clothes of the so-called prince and princess. Although the princess's face was still a little dark, she was very pleasant to look at. Zhang Feng couldn't help but have a playful look in his eyes. "Hello, guest. I am the shopkeeper of this small tavern. How can I help you?" "Well, go. I almost forgot that you are the prince and princess. This way. Please come in. I'll serve you the best wine in the Tang Dynasty." Without waiting for that guy to explain himself, Zhang Feng pulled him into the tavern in a hurry. He couldn't let an outsider take advantage of this treasure. As soon as they entered the tavern, Zhang Feng began to make preparations. Shiva and the others frowned as they observed the dilapidated tavern. However, even though the tavern didn't look like much, the aroma of the wine was exceptionally alluring. Earlier, Shiva had been attracted by the strange aroma of the wine and the oddly shaped wine jug. Just as everyone was observing the tavern, an alluring aroma wafted out, and their eyes were glued to the kitchen that was covered by a floral curtain. It was too fragrant. The Tang Dynasty is indeed the Tang Dynasty. How can I compare myself to such delicious food? A moment later, 3 to 5 piping hot dishes were placed on the table. Zhang Feng even opened 3 jugs of white wine with an alcohol content of at least 55%. He placed 1 jug in front of Shiva and Dala, then prepared a large plate of vegetables and threw it on another table. He threw 2 jugs of wine and sat next to Dala as if he was familiar with the place. Come, Your Highness, try my cooking. I guarantee that your trip won't be in vain. Although Shiva was 20 years old, it was his first time in the Tang Dynasty to celebrate the birthday of the former emperor of the Tang Dynasty, Li Yuan. However, at this time when he was shopping, he saw a strange chair, a strange wine jug, and a strange man. He was instantly attracted by the man's comfortable posture as he drank. However, he didn't expect that the wine would make him salivate even though he had drunk the wine of the Tang Dynasty. That was why he saw the scene just now. However, looking at the exquisite dishes on the table, he didn't dare to eat them. However, his guards weren't so particular. A group of people surrounded the table. Each of them grabbed a handful of food and started to eat. The fragrance instantly attracted the remaining 12 people, and they wolfed down the food. On the contrary, the wine served as a foil. Seeing that the guards were eating happily and nothing else happened, Shiva couldn't help but pick up a piece of twice-cooked pork and throw it into his mouth. A moment later, that mellow fragrance caused his eyes to twitch violently. Why did ordinary pork taste so good after being cooked by him? It was too fragrant. Dala couldn't help it. She didn't pout like a noble. Instead, she ate happily. Shopkeeper, why is your dish better than the others? Why is it better than the chefs of Honglu Temple and Jingtai restaurant in the city? Manager, what dish is this? The 2 of them ate happily. Zhang Feng smiled. He didn't say anything. Instead, he poured a bowl of wine for the 2 of them and said, "This is the specialty of this restaurant. Ordinary people can't taste it. I've disturbed the crown prince today, so I made some rare delicacies and wine as an apology. Come. Try the wine that I've collected for 15 years. As he spoke, Zhang Feng raised the bowl of wine high and drank it in front of the 2 of them. The rich aroma of the wine made Shiva salivate even though he didn't drink it. However, he didn't dare to drink it since no one was drinking it. Moreover, Zhang Feng was too polite. He didn't dare to. He had more important things to do. He subconsciously pressed his chest and saw that Zhang Feng was fine after drinking a big bowl of wine. Shiva thought to himself, it should be fine after drinking a mouthful, right? He mustered his courage and imitated Zhang Feng. After Dala's persuasion, he slowly took a sip. It's fine. I'll just take a sip. Chapter 134. And here they were drinking to their heart's content. At this time, something big also happened in the palace. In the deepest part of the palace. This place was exceptionally quiet. It was as if he had been isolated from the outside world. The inside and outside of the high palace walls presented 2 colors. Outside this area, a large number of Jinwu guards were stationed, as well as the residents of little eunuchs. And within the high walls, there were also a large number of Jinwu guards stationed, but these Jinwu guards were like wooden stakes, only responsible for guarding. And in the palace, all kinds of beauties and palace maids strolling freely, compared to the outside world, had a trace of freedom. This kind of freedom, however, was only limited to this area. This place was a forbidden area in everyone's heart. It was the previous emperor, also the current emperor emeritus, Li Yuan's residence. Outside the walls of Su Rian's palace, it was withered and mottled, even the houses did not have the money to repair, but inside, it was extremely extravagant. In the depths, a large number of women dressed in gorgeous clothes were singing and dancing by the lake, and in the center of the lake, on a flower boat, a white-robed old man with white hair was lying in the bosom of a beautiful woman, his breasts exposed. This kind of extravagance seemed to be endless. It made Li Yuan numb. Even he was somewhat immersed. But, in this kind of extreme extravagance, Li Yuan also forgot his former glory. Right at this time, an old man dressed in a Confucian robe, holding a token, quietly entered the garden in the center of the lake from the side door, all the way through all the difficulties. Then, looking at Li Yuan's flower boat, he bowed his head and kowtowed. Old official Huang de Gue greets the Emperor Emeritus. A familiar yet unfamiliar voice. It made Li Yuan, who was enjoying himself on the flower boat, suddenly flash a trace of confusion in his eyes. Waving his hand, he made the music stop. At this time, although everyone was laughing, the atmosphere suddenly became cold. Li Yuan got up unsteadily, but after trying for a long time he still could not sit up. Half leaning on a woman's body, squinting at the person who came, he asked, "Who are you?" "Behead the Jingwu guards." "Your Majesty." Hearing this, that person was greatly shocked. He hurriedly called, "Your Majesty." "Old official Huang Degue. Have you forgotten?" "Huang Degue?" Li Yuan waved his hand indifferently. After dismissing the Jingwu guards, he had the woman row the flower boat to the shore. At this time, Li Yuan finally saw clearly the person who came. He couldn't help but exclaim in surprise, "Huang Degue, raise your head." When Huang Degue heard that, he raised his head with a face full of tears and looked at Li Yuan. Li Yuan said in surprise, "You're old. We remember that you had a head of black hair back then. What happened to you? After not seeing you for a few days, your hair has turned white?" "A few days, Your Majesty. 2 years. This old official is old. To be able to see Your Majesty again, this old subject can die with no regrets." Huang Degue sadly kowtowed on the ground. Right at this time, Li Yuan was carried ashore. He seemed to have woken up at this moment and regained his former glory. Although his face was pale and dispirited, it still couldn't erase his innate majesty. "Why have you come to find me today? We remember now. In half a month our birthday will be here. Could it be that you found something fun? Come, bring it up for me." "Your Majesty. This old subject has something to report." Li Yuan was a little disappointed and said playfully, "You're here to file a complaint. Then tell me about it." When Huang Degue heard that, he hurriedly reported, "Retired Emperor, half a year ago, His Majesty signed the White Horse Agreement with the Turks, which is the Wei River Alliance, making my Tang Dynasty suffer humiliation. You know about this matter, right?" "We know about this matter. Although His Majesty did something wrong, we think he did the right thing. Could it be that you're here for this matter?" The aura on Li Yuan's body was a little dignified. Huang Degue trembled all over. He hurriedly said, "Retired Emperor, let me finish. Half a year ago, after His Majesty signed this agreement, his entire person was basically crippled. A month ago, I don't know where he got a method from. It said that it can nourish the kidney and nourish the body. He turned such filthy things like locust eggs into delicacies to amass wealth wantonly." Li Yuan interrupted him and waved his hand, "We know this. We're taking it now. This thing is indeed effective. Huang Degue, if you have nothing else, get lost. If you have something, go find His Majesty. Don't bother me with such a small matter." Li Yuan was a little angry. "Retired Emperor. This is just the cause. In order to deal with the drought in Longyu Road, His Majesty got the help of God to make a water wheel. Not only did he not use it to the Tang Dynasty, but he also sold it at a low price. It's equivalent to giving it to Tubo. Just a few days ago, His Majesty suddenly issued a secret order for all provinces and Chang and city to secretly stockpile food. I don't know why His Majesty did this. Even when I asked in court, His Majesty didn't tell me. As a result, the people of the Tang Dynasty are in a state of panic. The price of food even skyrocketed in one day. The people are already suffering unspeakably. If this matter is not eradicated, the Tang Dynasty will be in chaos. I have no other way, so I came to report to Retired Emperor. Moreover, His Majesty not only didn't help the drought in Shandong, but also said that it was the matter of the Shandong gentry and that His Majesty didn't care." "Retired Emperor. You have to uphold justice for the common people." Li Yuan frowned slightly. After thinking for a long time, he asked, "Is this true?" Huang Degue prostrated himself and said, "I guarantee it with my head." Li Yuan felt more and more that this matter was somewhat unfathomable. He said with a sleeve, "Help me up. Tell Li Shimin to get over here." Chapter 135. Li Shimin was also in a terrible fix at this time. Originally, everything was going according to plan. But he didn't know what went wrong. He actually chose to let the whole Chang and city know that he was stockpiling grain. Although he had already informed all the major grain merchants about this matter, the news still leaked out. In the bedroom, Li Shimin paced back and forth anxiously. Empress Zhang Sun looked at Li Shimin's worried face. She wanted to say something several times, but in the end she held back. She didn't know how long Li Shimin paced around. Finally, he couldn't help but ask, "Maid Guanyin, do you think I did the right thing?" "Second brother, why do you ask?" Empress Zhang Sun got up, helped Li Shimin sit down and poured him a cup of tea. Li Shimin looked at the tea, but he didn't have the slightest intention to drink it. He sighed and said, "I dare not say whether there will be a plague of locusts next year. I didn't consider this matter carefully." "No. Empress Zhang Sun patted the back of Li Shimin's hand. Did Zhang Feng say this? Li Shimin nodded. Then I think it's true. Oh. Although this concubine has not taken a step out of the palace, this concubine has seen through second brother's relaxed and strategizing during this period of time, as well as the things you have told me. What Zhang Feng said is indeed the plague of locusts next year. You knew about it? Li Shimin was a little surprised. Yes, you were happy at that time, so I didn't want to make you worry. I thought you knew about it, but I never thought that you had forgotten the deeper meaning of his words for the sake of immediate interest. Li Shimin was shocked. Indeed, he had been so caught up in Zhang Feng's words and was attracted by the beauty in Zhang Feng's words that he forgot about the long-term planning. He had neglected his duty. Although he regretted it now, it was still not too late. Second brother, I think the current rumors are actually a good thing. Why do you say that? Second brother, do you still remember the news my eldest brother brought back when he went to inquire about the cooperative? Zhang Feng said that we are missing an opportunity, and what he meant was the opportunity of this locust plague. Obviously, his words are very clear. As for this year's locust plague, I've thought about it. Just as he said, if we don't treat it this year, then next year, even the golden immortals won't be able to control it. This year, so many people benefited from the locusts. Next year, even if second brother doesn't mention it, have you thought about the effects? What about the future? This is a long-term plan. Empress Zhang Sun said all that needed to be said in one breath, making Li Shimin's thoughts clearer at this time. Li Shimin could not help but feel a chill in his heart. Then Guanyin maid, you mean to say that we won't care about what's happening in the market for now? Empress Zhang Sun shook her head. She sighed and said, there's still half a month before father's birthday. We'd better think of a way to resolve the conflict between you two. And I have a bold plan for this matter. What plan? Li Yuan was a thorn in Li Shimin's heart. It had always been in his heart. He was thinking about how to resolve the conflict between them all the time. However, if the matter of stockpiling grain was spread to the retired emperor's ears, how could it be resolved? On the contrary, it would make the matter even more intense, right? Empress Zhang Sun smiled and said, second brother, you're really smart all your life but stupid this time. Don't you think about why this matter is like this? Li Shimin thought about it carefully. But he still did not think of the reason. He smiled speechlessly. Stop joking, Guanyin maid. Tell me what's your plan. Empress Zhang Sun smiled. Someone must be behind this matter. Second brother, think about it, who is most likely to be behind it? You mean in Shandong? Li Shimin was actually shocked. Yes. Other than second brother, not many people know about this matter. Then, what do you think father will do if we reveal this matter in front of all the officials and father at the birthday banquet and catch the culprit? Even if it's the Wei River Alliance or the locust eggs last time, retired emperor didn't say anything. Although he doesn't care about it, his heart is still with the people of the Tang Dynasty. Li Shimin frowned and pondered for a moment, and a murderous intent flashed in his eyes. Then it turned into a touch of gentleness. He gently put his arms around Empress Jiangxuan's waist and said intimately, it's good that I have Guanyin maid. Your Majesty. At this moment, little Gizi's voice sounded hurriedly outside the door. Empress Jiangxun blushed and stepped away from Li Shimin's arms. Li Shimin figured it out and his whole spirit was refreshed. He waved his hand and said, come in. As soon as little Gizi entered the door, he hurriedly reported, Your Majesty, retired emperor wants to see you. Retired emperor? Li Shimin frowned. But in an instant he understood a lot. At this time, retired emperor hurriedly looked for him, which meant that there must be something important. What was it that alarmed retired emperor? The smile that had just appeared on Li Shimin's face turned cold in an instant. He waved his hand and said, set up the carriage. Chapter 136. Deep in the palace. Li Shimin hasn't come for some days. Ever since he entered Li Shimin's palace, his mood couldn't help but be suppressed again. As someone who's good at playing with people's hearts, he had already thought through the cause and effect of the matter from Xiao Gizi's report just now. Ever since that incident, the retired emperor rarely had the thought of seeing him. And because of his guilt, even if he was living in poverty, he would do his best to please the retired emperor. After all, he's his father. On this point, Li Shimin believes that as a son, he has already done it to the point of no reproach. So much so that as long as the retired emperor wanted a plaything, even if dozens of horses ran to death, he would order people to find it at the first moment. Originally, Li Shimin wanted to ask Zhang Feng at this birthday to resolve the conflict between them. But he didn't expect that on the eve of the birthday, there would be an accident. He doesn't think that Li Yuan summoned him to discuss the birthday at this time. This is definitely those dishonest people in the court who went to snitch on him. Li Shimin's eyes emitted a blazing light. It made Empress Zhang's son, who was also sitting in the carriage, couldn't help but have her palms sweating. Second brother. Father's matter. I hope you can be more appropriate. After all, he's your father. If there's the slightest mistake, people will talk about it. Oh. Li Shimin took a deep breath and swallowed the anger in his chest. He patted the back of Empress Jiangxuan's hand. It's okay. She knows. Taiji Palace wasn't far from the back hall. A moment later, Li Shimin's carriage stopped at the back hall between the heavily guarded palace and the Ministry of Internal Servants. Getting off the carriage, a little eunuch personally called the door to report. His Majesty has arrived. In the pavilion in the middle of the lake, Li Yuan tidied up his attire. Although it was still somewhat unrestrained, it was much better than before. At this time, Huang Digui bowed and stood behind Li Yuan, but his whole body could not stop trembling. At this moment, what he feared the most was Li Shimin. He knew what was waiting for him, but what could he do now? He could only wait and let it happen. In the eyes of the royal family, he was just a dog. The only difference was whether he was obedient or not. That was what he truly felt at this moment. If it weren't for the fact that his family's interests were at stake, he wouldn't have dared to stand against Li Shimin. At this time, looking at Li Yuan's back as well as Li Shimin, who came hand in hand with the Empress, his palms were trembling, his legs and stomach were cramping. The most terrifying thing was that the Emperor acted as if he didn't see him and didn't even look at him. After seeing Li Yuan, he bowed to Empress Zhang's son and said, "This son greets Imperial Father." Li Yuan only snorted. He was still admiring the fish playing on the surface of the lake beside him. Yellow, red, black and white carps were jumping joyfully in the lake. Wasn't it lively? Li Shimin and Empress Zhang's son seemed to have long been accustomed to it. Seeing that Li Yuan ignored them, they got up and then looked at the fish on the lake and praised, "Imperial Father, this pond of fish is more joyful than the fish in the Imperial Garden. Later, I'll ask the craftsman to come and consult him." Consult? Do you still need to consult? Li Yuan said sarcastically. You really don't know anything. Instead, that inferior nature of yours has become more and more arrogant. Li Shimin bowed and pretended not to know and asked, "This son doesn't know what Imperial Father is unhappy about. Please enlighten me." Don't know? Ha ha ha. How could you not know? Ha ha ha. The dignified emperor of all ages, the dignified Tang Dynasty emperors, how could you not know? Li Yuan laughed unrestrainedly. It made the temperature of the entire back hall suddenly drop to the freezing point. Even many palace maids and eunuchs began to tremble at this time. Both of them were masters of scheming and playing with people's hearts. Now the game made everyone tremble in fear. Imperial Father. The son doesn't know. Li Shimin was still expressionless. Good. You don't know. Good. Good. Then I'll tell you. Can the people live and work in peace? Not yet. But I believe that it won't be too far away. Ah. Li Yuan sneered. Today, if I suddenly wanted to hear about the preparations for the birthday outside and summoned Huang Digui, I wouldn't know until now. Although I don't know how you govern the world, I'm too lazy to care. But in a small Chang'an city, you can make people panic. You are so capable. Huang Digui's cold sweat had not dried up until he died. Just now, Li Yuan obviously saved his life. His life was temporarily saved, but he didn't know what would happen when he went out of this door. Motherf *Ker, you two fight with wits and courage. What does it have to do with me? Lao Tzu came to you to let you know. Why do you have to drag me down? Now it's fine. Motherf *Ker. Get ready to run when you get out of here. Otherwise, he couldn't withstand Li Shimin's anger. He cursed Li Yuan and his son again. Li Yuan suddenly got up, angrily swept the fruits on the table and shouted, "Tell me about Chang'an. What's going on?" Chapter 137. Father. Li Shimin was a little annoyed. Father. During this period of time, His Majesty has forgotten to eat and sleep because of the drought in Longyu Road. In addition, during this period of time, the Tujue and Tuyuhan are also a little dishonest, so Empress Zhang's son tried to mediate. She could also see that Li Shimin was a little annoyed. However, as a daughter-in-law and the Empress, she had to stand up and persuade. She knew the knot in Li Shimin's heart. Every midnight, Li Shimin would wake up because of the black tortoise gate. He would only remove his disguise at midnight. At that time he would be his true self. He was afraid of the screams in his dreams. He was afraid of the screams. He was afraid of the screams in his dreams. However, only he and Zhang Sun Wugo knew about all of this. Therefore Li Shimin could only work so hard that he forgot to eat and sleep, hoping to forget the past and the sorrow. Who would know about these scenes? He was only in his 30s, but his hair was still white. If it weren't for Zhang Feng's worm egg that made Li Shimin's old age slightly recover, Zhang Sun Wugo wouldn't dare to look at Li Shimin's haggard face. After all, she was a woman. Why wouldn't she hope that her husband could let go of all the knots in his heart? She knew that the knot in his heart was Li Yuan. However, at this time it seemed that, with Zhang Sun Wugo's persuasion, Li Yuan's anger also slowly weakened. He looked at Li Shimin lightly and said, "Even my daughter-in-law understands the truth, don't you understand? I'll ask you one thing. Now, what is the reason for the panic in Chang'an City? Don't use the drought as a pretense. Do you think I'm really old and confused? I don't even know this little thing?" "Huang Degue, you tell His Majesty." Li Yuan scolded a few times and instantly panted heavily. He waved his hand and let Huang Degue speak. In an instant, a beautiful imperial concubine served Li Yuan tea and combed his back. Huang Degue's teeth were chattering. How would he dare to say that? However, he had no choice but to say it now. He knelt on the ground with a thud. Huang Degue looked as if he had just eaten feces. He said bitterly, "Your Majesty, retired emperor, at this time, the drought in Longyu Dao is basically under control. However, I didn't know that Chang'an and other prefectures were stocking up grain. It was Your Majesty's order." "Don't know?" Li Shimin smiled playfully. The way he looked at Huang Degue was extremely cold. It was the first time. For the first time since entering this place, Li Shimin glanced at Huang Degue. He was originally an official of the Guanglu Temple. This time, his careful words could already be considered to have offended his superiors. However, he was someone from the Shandong series who could still speak. Moreover, he knew that this time, Li Yuan was giving him a chance to find a way out for himself. If there was even the slightest mistake in what he said, then not only would he be affected, but even the Shandong series that the emperor was very dissatisfied with would also be affected. But he had no choice but to struggle. Watching Chang'an City and other prefectures crazily stocking up grain made him envious. If he didn't fight for some benefits for the various forces in Shandong at this time, then he would have no chance at all. Moreover, after thinking about it, he finally decided to take the risk, bypassing the emperor and directly coming to see Li Yuan. Taking advantage of Li Yuan's birthday, if he pressured the emperor at this time, then the various clans in Shandong would once again make a fortune. After all, the huge amount of grain hoarded was enough to make people go crazy. The clan had already promised that if this accident happened, as long as he made a prompt decision to resign and then fled back to Shandong, then everything would still be in time. Thinking of this, Huang Degue took a deep breath and said, "Your Majesty, at this time, the drought in Longyu has been resolved and there are 5 wars. I wonder if Your Majesty is storing so much grain for Tubo? I was worried that Your Majesty would send Tubo precious grain from the Tang Dynasty to Tubo and help boost Tubo's arrogance, so Li Shimin narrowed his eyes. He looked at Huang Degue as if he was looking at a dead man. "Are you saying that I'm confused? I don't dare. I'll die 10,000 times. Huang Degue decided to speak frankly. "I'm just fighting for a mouthful of grain for the villagers of Shandong. What's wrong with that? If Your Majesty is unwilling, I'll pretend that I never mentioned this matter." Huang Degue said all that he could say and couldn't say in one breath. In an instant he felt comfortable. However, Li Yuan was not happy. "Back then, didn't you know that if it wasn't for the support of the nobles in Shandong, would the Tang Dynasty be where it is today? Would you be as awe-inspiring as you are today? Tell me about it today. I know about the matter in Shandong. Tell me in front of me, how are you going to solve it?" Li Yuan was annoyed. He didn't want to delay anymore. At this time, his face was extremely pale, and his forehead was already sweating. Li Shimin bowed. He wasn't prepared to tell Li Yuan. In fact, he didn't know how to resolve the conflict at this time. He could only delay until he saw Zhang Feng before he could make a conclusion. He had really had enough of this kind of suppression. "Father, you will know about this on the day of your birthday. For the time being, it's inconvenient for me to tell you. Everything will come to light on the day of your birthday." Chapter 138. After he finished speaking, Li Shimin no longer paid attention to the furious Li Yuan, coldly glanced at Huang Degue, and then left with large strides. Even that determination was no different from the Xuanwu Gate back then. Li Yuan was somewhat aghast. Under Li Shimin's gaze, Huang Degue's entire body trembled. Out of the back hall, Li Shimin looked at the scorching sun in the sky and took a deep breath. "Second brother, how do you plan to end this matter? Don't tell me you want to see Zhang Feng?" Although Zhang Sun Wugo had never seen Zhang Feng, but Li Shimin's mouth, these two words had never stopped. Since half a year ago, Li Shimin would show off in front of Zhang Sun Wugo. And when Empress Zhang Sun Wugo knew that all this was done by that person, she was also surprised. So at this time, after seeing Li Shimin's troubled face, she unconsciously thought of Zhang Feng. The matter between me and father should not be delayed any longer. The birthday is an opportunity, I don't want to waste it, and father's body seems to be unable to withstand the torment. I also want father to secretly think of family. Alas! Li Shimin sighed deeply. Governing the world. He could play with the world and applaud, but there was only this freak Zhang Feng. He could not figure him out, but his intuition told Li Shimin that Zhang Feng was the foundation of his immortal dynasty. Although he did not want to admit it. But from every time Zhang Feng's words, that sense of strategy made him incomparably envious. At this time the two had already become friends. And this matter, Li Shimin's intuition told him that no one other than Zhang Feng could solve it. Your Majesty. Seeing Li Shimin's burning eyes, Zhang Sun Wugo wanted to say something but hesitated. Why not summon him into the palace? Second brother doesn't lack an imperial censor by his side. Furthermore, I've noticed that even Wei Zheng seems to be praising this kid. This concubine would like to meet him. Li Shimin shook his head. How can I not want to? But he has already become my friend, brother. If I summon him into the palace before he makes a decision, for one, all the officials will not accept it, and with his novel opinions, do you think all the civil officials will tolerate him? Zhang Sun Wugo was silent. Li Shimin was right. This imperial court was a big dye vat, not everyone could participate in it. Once he stepped into this circle, he would be shattered by the impact. Moreover, he was just a small figure without any background. Li Shimin sighed again and got into the carriage. The time is not the time. On the other hand, the matter of Chang and city's grain hoarding did not weaken at all. In a situation where the public did not understand, Zhang Sun Wuji directly said that whoever deliberately inflated the grain price would be beheaded. Whoever spoke nonsense and incited civil unrest would be beheaded. Merchants who dared to hoard grain privately would be beheaded. Those who dared to use power for personal gain would be beheaded. After the 4 orders were issued, the whole of Chang and fell into a state of panic. Zhang Sun Wuji and the others were even busier at this time. On the one hand, it was because of the grain issue, which was previously carried out in secret, but now it was an open matter. On the other hand, the progress of the matter was a little stagnant. This worried everyone so much that they almost pulled out all their hair. At this time, our General Qing Yaojin and Zhang Sun Wuji's precious son were on the move. The 2 stubborn experts of Chang and city set out. In an instant, everyone in Chang and city was shocked. What could Qing Chumo and Zhang Sun do? Zhang Sun Wuji was famous for being stubborn. Although Zhang Sun Wuji would give him some face, the 2 of them had formed a clique and pulled out almost half of the stubborn people in Chang and city in an instant. And the initiator of this matter was Wei Zheng. He stood on the gate tower with a smile, looking at Wei Shuyu, who took off the armor of the Jin Wu Guard, and said, Son, now is the time to test you. Now you are no longer the son of Wei Zheng. You are the spear in His Majesty's hand. Go, take your brothers and show His Majesty what you have done. These words instantly made Qing Chumo and Zhang Sun explode. With a roar, they grabbed their weapons and rushed into Chang'an city. Du Ruhui looked at Du Go with worry in his eyes and asked, Brother Wei, can this method really solve the current chaos in Chang'an city? Everyone else was the same. They were afraid that their precious son would cause trouble. However, Wei Jing still looked in the direction of the East Market and said, This is a test. This time, if these bastards can really solve the chaos in Chang, and stock up the food smoothly, this will be their invitation to become Zhang Feng's disciple. No one was a fool. They instantly understood the idea of Wei Zheng, the old fox. Even Qing Yaojin had a rare moment of enlightenment at this moment. Wei Zheng, do you mean that as long as the food chaos in Chang and is solved, my son can go to the tavern? What if the outsiders are criticized because of this? Wei Zheng was speechless and smiled slightly. Not only that, it's inconvenient for us old guys to show up. Now it's up to them. After all, the world will belong to the young people in the future. This time, not only will they solve this problem, but they will also deal with the nobles from the foreign countries and make them understand a principle. What principle? Everyone asked in unison. Wei Zheng's eyes were fierce. He said word by word. This is the Tang Dynasty. Chapter 139. Just as Chang and city was in chaos in a small tavern. It was when Zhang Feng's talk show had just started. the cowardly guards of Jinla, who knew nothing about the power of the fine wine of the Tang dynasty, each drank a jar of 55-proof white wine. At this time, a large number of people had already been drunk. Some were crying and screaming while hugging the table legs, some were giggling, and some were vomiting so much that they even vomited out bile. Now they were all vomiting. However, the crown prince was the crown prince after all. Although the wine of the crown prince and the princess was only diluted by 20 degrees by Zhang Feng, their faces were still red at this time. Together with their dark faces, they looked like the color of sweet potatoes at this time. The two were attracted by Zhang Feng's speech. At this time they no longer cared about their identity. They stared at Zhang Feng with their big black eyes and asked, "Master Zhang, may I ask, how can we make Jinla as rich and powerful as the Tang dynasty?" Rich and powerful? Zhang Feng rolled his eyes at the crown prince, stared at the huge jade on Princess Dala's chest and said, "Let me ask you, how many people do you have in Jinla?" The crown prince of Shiwa frowned and counted with his fingers for a long time before he said with a big tongue, "About 300,000 households, less than 400,000 households." "Then, you want to compare with the Tang dynasty with so few people? Do you know how many people there are in the Tang dynasty?" Zhang Feng stretched out his hand as he spoke. He said mysteriously, "More than 5 million households." Of course, he didn't know how many people there were in the Tang dynasty. Besides, how many people there were was none of his business. Could it be that the small Jinla kingdom would actually count them seriously? If he really did that, then in minutes, the butcher's knife of the mighty Tang dynasty would cut off their livelihood. However, even though it was just a random number that Zhang Feng came up with, Prince Jinla and Princess Jinla still gasped. 5 million? So many? Then, Master Zhang, how did the Tang dynasty become so rich and powerful? As the crown prince of Jinla. This time, with the help of Li Yuan's birthday celebration, it was also the first time they came to the Tang dynasty to seek some experience that they needed. After all, those ministers and envoys were all closely watched by the officials of the Tang dynasty and at all levels, so they had no chance to come to Chang and to experience life. But they were different. They were juniors, and they had also received the approval of the Tang emperor to come to Chang'an City, the most famous city in the Tang dynasty, to broaden their horizons. After all, the land they lived in was basically saline alkali soil, and the grain production basically depended on the trade with the Tang dynasty. If Jinla could learn a little bit of craftsmanship, it would be very good for his development. This time he was able to enter the tavern because he was attracted by the strange chair and the strange pot. What was the most famous thing about the Tang dynasty? Porcelain. However, Shiva had never seen this item before. It looked like porcelain, but when he touched it, it was actually iron. And it was the kind of iron that was poured into one. If he could get such a technology, then Jinla would be saved. How could Zhang Feng not know this silly guy's purpose? This Jinla was a typical fool with a lot of money. If he didn't take advantage of him, who would he take advantage of? Zhang Feng deliberately kept silent for a moment. Then he whispered mysteriously, "I'll only tell you about this. You mustn't tell anyone else." "Master Zhang, please tell me." Hearing this, Shiva was so excited that he almost hugged Zhang Feng and kissed him. However, when he saw Zhang Feng hesitating and glancing at Dala from time to time, he finally saw the palm-sized jade on Dala's chest. He pulled it off Dala and handed it to Zhang Feng with both hands, saying, "Master Zhang, please don't take offense. We forgot the etiquette. It's just a little token of our respect." Zhang Feng smiled. Under Dala's round and shy eyes, he wiped the jade and stuffed it into his arms. Such a big jade with such a good water source, it must be from the old pit. Good stuff. He thought about it happily, raised his wine bowl and said passionately, "Seeing that I hit it off with Prince Shiva today, I am really lucky. Come, let's drink together." A bowl of wine went down his stomach. Zhang Feng stared at the pink jade earrings on Dala's ears again and said, "Do you want to get rich?" "Yes." How could Shiva not want to? He definitely wanted to get rich. Otherwise, why would he come here? Moreover, although this small tavern was old and shabby, the fine wine, the delicious food, the strange wine jug, and the casual lounge chair in the corner were all full of temptation. If he could get his hands on any of these things, it would be an endless wealth for Jinla. Moreover, he dared to guarantee that there was no other tavern in the whole of Chang'an, or even the whole of the Tang dynasty. Seeing this, Zhang Feng shook his head mysteriously and said, "I wonder if your highness' desire to get rich is strong. What I am about to say may overturn all your previous common sense, so please think twice before you make a decision." Seeing Zhang Feng being so mysterious and serious, Shiva couldn't care less and quickly swore, "Master Zhang, please save my people." Chapter 140. Shiva was not an impulsive person. He also knew what the price of being impulsive was. But now, on one hand it was because of the alcohol and on the other hand, everything in this small tavern was shocking to him. Although he was the crown prince, there were at least 30 brothers who wanted him dead. If he didn't have any tricks up his sleeve, he didn't know who would get the throne in the end. Therefore he gritted his teeth and went all out. Zhang Feng had achieved his goal. He completely used the great deception technique. Let me ask you, what are the specialties of Jinla? Jade, top-grade jade, coral, seafood and all kinds of fruits. Shiva reported truthfully. Zhang Feng nodded. Then what is your business? What are your main cash crops? This? Zhang Feng was a little angry. He was afraid that what he said would be different from the Jinla of the future. However, he knew that Sawatika was an industry thousands of years in the future. When Shiva's words became sluggish, he knew that his opportunity had come. His goal would soon be achieved. I won't hide it from Master Zhang. My Jinla's location is rather barren, so I'm very ashamed. My Jinla's cash crop basically depends on fruits and seafood. My goal in coming to the Great Tang this time was to obtain some farming experience. Our food supply is basically not enough to feed our people. Shiva said it was very miserable, but in Zhang Feng's impression, the rice produced in that place was very expensive even in the dignified Wuxia. Why was it so difficult to grow this thing in Jinla during the Tang Dynasty? Wasn't this his opportunity? Ridiculous. Ridiculous. Zhang Feng scolded with resentment. Shiva and Dala's eyes widened in an instant. Dala asked naively, then may I ask Master Zhang what's ridiculous about it? She was a little angry. Looking at Zhang Feng's chest, she was so angry that she pouted her lips high. For a woman, that jade was something that she had to wear from birth. It had to be taken by her future husband when she got married and then passed on to the next generation. However, in this small tavern, Brother Wang treated it as a gift and gave it to this pervert. How could she be happy? However, this person was quite good-looking. Thinking of this, Dara's face turned even redder. Zhang Feng couldn't see this scene, but Shiva saw it clearly, but he didn't say anything. He was just waiting for Zhang Feng to speak. Zhang Feng didn't say anything and remained silent. Shiva instinctively glanced at the pair of earrings on Dala's ears. He gritted his teeth and gestured for her to step down. Then he respectfully placed the earrings in front of Zhang Feng. Seeing this, Zhang Feng was furious. What are you doing? I've already said that we hit it off, but you can't use this thing to humiliate me. Siwa and Dala almost believed him when they saw Zhang Feng pressing his earlobes under his palms as he spoke. The corners of their mouths twitched uncontrollably. Fine. What an expert. We can't offend him. Shiva patiently asked, Master Zhang, please save the people of Jinla. If Master Zhang is willing to help, Jinla will definitely give you a big gift. Sigh. This is boring. Zhang Feng waved his hand repeatedly, but his eyes were looking at the two of them from head to toe. About this, I'll ask you a question. In the Tang Dynasty there's a saying that goes, those who rely on the mountain live on the mountain, and those who rely on the water live on the water. Do you understand? There's such a saying in the Tang Dynasty? Shiva blurted out subconsciously. However, after thinking about it, he felt that something was wrong and hurriedly cupped his fists. Master Zhang, please enlighten us. This kid is stupid. Sigh. Such a simple thing. Fine, let me ask you, does Jinla have a lot of water? Yes. Moreover, it's mostly salty and alkaline land. That place is really not suitable for planting. Even fruits can't be grown there. Shiva sighed. That's right. Zhang Feng slapped his thigh. You're fundamentally wrong about this matter. Idiots. Damn it. What AF asterisk king idiot? You can't even figure out such a simple question. Are you uncivilized barbarians? What can be grown in that alkaline land? Do you think Elder Yuan is the culprit? However, with a purpose in mind, Zhang Feng patiently asked again, to your east, is it facing the sea where flowers bloom in spring? Master Zhang, have you been to Jinla? Shiva was shocked. If he hadn't been to Jinla, how could a small shopkeeper from the Tang Dynasty know so much? Although it was not a secret, Shiva felt that an ordinary person like him wouldn't have the ability to cross mountains and rivers to go to Jinla. Don't tell me you haven't been to Jinla. But that's not important. I'm just asking you, right? Yes. Shiva was even more certain that Zhang Feng was that mysterious expert. He might be the kind of immortal that was described in the ancient books. At this moment he was even more respectful and almost knelt down. After getting the answer, Zhang Feng confirmed the direction and said regretfully, don't any of you know the principle of relying on water to make a living? Chapter 141. Zhang Feng really wanted to pry open this guy's head to see what was inside. How could they not know such a simple question? Although Xunla had only been established for a short period of time, Zhang Feng understood the history of Xunla and other places after thinking about it carefully. Now, it seemed that other than Xunla, there were only some tribes living in groups. After thinking about this, Zhang Feng sighed. This time he had given Lao Li and the others free labor. The seafood in the sea had long made him hungry. Let me tell you this. The sea is a treasure given to you by God. Don't you cherish it? Yes. Some of our people rely on the fish in the sea for a living, but this thing can't be eaten for a long time or it will cause problems. Moreover, if we sell it, the merchants of the Tang Dynasty will not care about our fish and shrimp, so Shiva also had his own difficulties. Of course, they knew that there were treasures in the sea. However, the merchants of the Tang Dynasty were extremely crafty people, and the Tang Dynasty also had a sea, so it was impossible to export this thing to the Tang Dynasty. What do you usually catch? Tell me about it. Zhang Feng was interested. Shiva said in detail, just some fish and nothing else. Alright, there are corals, but that place is too dangerous. We don't have a powerful ship like the Tang Dynasty, so Zhang Feng slapped his forehead in distress. Fine. He finally knew why there was no seafood in the Tang Dynasty. They only knew how to fish. What else was there in the sea except for fish? Damn, where were those shrimp? Australian lobsters? Tuna? *CK. What about the nutritious sea cucumbers, sea urchins, starfish and seahorses? You guys are treating these things like trash? Trash. Uncivilized. Zhang Feng felt sorry for those good things. Sigh. I was born in a treasure mountain, but I came back empty-handed. Zhang Feng looked up at the sky and sighed. This shocked Shiva greatly. However, no matter how he asked, he was unable to wake Zhang Feng from his thoughts. However, he gritted his teeth, took off a string of top-grade pearls from his neck, and presented it to Zhang Feng. This made Zhang Feng blind. He put away the pearl with a smile. Zhang Feng said with a straight face, "You're not allowed to spend any more." Actually, in this sea, other than fish, did you see anything else? For example, something that has long antennae, swims in the water and jumps. Something like that? As he spoke, Zhang Feng turned around and took out a brush, ink, paper and inkstone from the counter. He drew the general shape of a shrimp and other marine products. Both of them grew up by the sea. Although Zhang Feng could not tell them their names, the two of them exclaimed as soon as he drew. Oh my! I know this. This is a sea bug. We can't even kill them all. They've almost eaten all the fish eggs. This is a sea crab. It's green and as big as a bowl. There are too many of them. This one is soft. What's this? This one looks like a worm. This one is soft. I know this tentacle monster. Father and the others call it an 8-legged monster. I heard that fishermen often fall victim to them. Zhang Feng drew one for every one of them. Shiva and Dar could name them. And when they heard it, they realized that these things were rampant. *CK. You treat such good things as dog shit? *CK. What a waste. Zhang Feng said seriously, these are the real treasures of the sea. And the fish you're talking about are all dregs. Remember, you must keep what I've drawn today a secret. This is something that even the fishermen of the Tang Dynasty did not know about. This is the gift of the sea. But, what's the use of these? Shiva finally asked the most important question. The key was that there were so many of these things that all of them were angry because they were the goddess of the sea. The crabs were still okay. Some people still ate them. However, there were too many bones. As for the others, they were horrified just by looking at them. Could these be Kuei treasures? Zhang Feng said again, believe me, if you give up on farming and devote yourself to the sea, I can guarantee that you will make a fortune in less than a year. These things are very valuable? Shiva was shocked. Zhang Feng nodded solemnly. Businessmen are particular about seizing opportunities and creating hype. If you believe me, I can guarantee that there will be caravans buying these things in less than 3 months. And most importantly, you have to sell these things yourselves. If you can't, who knows what you really have? You're hiding it yourselves and you want the merchants of the Tang Dynasty to pay for it? Are you stupid? Zhang Feng was speechless. In this era, although there were such seafood along the coast of the Tang Dynasty, there were not as many as Sawatika. That place was a paradise for seafood. And at this moment he thought of a plan. Only Lao Li and the rest were left for this plan. If this plan worked, not only would he be able to get away with the grain storage crisis in Chang'an, but he would also be able to save Lao Li's life. Zhang Feng couldn't help but look outside the door and murmur in his heart, Old Li, you have to change your big mouth. As a brother, I can only help you up to this point. As for the grain storage issue in Chang'an, and it depends on His Majesty's mood. Chapter 142. When Zhang Feng saw that there was a crazy food grab in Chang'an City, he knew that something bad was going to happen. Moreover, it was Li Yuan's birthday now, and the envoys of various countries were coming. If this thing broke out at this time, it would be really serious. He didn't know why Li Shimin chose to hoard food at this time and with such great fanfare, but it must have something to do with Old Sun. When Old Sun left in a hurry that day, he knew that this guy would definitely tell Lao Li. But from the matter of hoarding food, he faintly sensed that this big mouth wouldn't have said it in the mansion of that old guy Zhang Sun Wuji, right? Thinking about it this way, Zhang Feng was a little panicked. Hoarding food at this time, the current emperor's head was either kicked by a donkey, or he was going to make a big move. But it was obvious that this big move was related to Li Yuan. However, this had nothing to do with him. He was just worried that if this matter made the emperor angry, he would definitely kill people to deter the world. Then who would he kill? Of course, Lao Li and the other small businessmen. At that time, he was afraid that he would die before the system was activated. At this time, he unexpectedly met Sawatika. This unexpected guest made Zhang Feng applaud. He really came at the right time. Thinking of this, Zhang Feng excitedly told the two naive people about the commercial secrets related to aquatic products in detail. But in fact, this was not a secret at all. In the future, this was a common thing. It was just a business method to buy low and sell high, but it was regarded as a supreme treasure by the naive Prince Shiva. While Zhang Feng was trying his best to persuade them, the gold and silver of Shiva and his sister were all in Zhang Feng's pocket. Zhang Feng was so embarrassed that he felt a little embarrassed. Hey, this is what I said. You have to remember it well. Shiva solemnly stood up, excitedly performed the noble etiquette with Dala, and then said solemnly, Master Zhang, you are too serious. You are a friend of Zhenla. Zhenla will definitely worship your portrait in the future. Damn it, was he cursing me? Zhang Feng didn't want to lose his temper. For the sake of Jininyu, he coughed and said, there's no need for that. We hit it off so well. Let me talk about something else. Zhenla was not suitable for growing food. It's better not to waste food and labor. If you bring real preserved seafood and precious fruits to Chang'an City and offer them to King Tang, you can just sit back and enjoy the rest of your life. Zhang Feng's words were all over the place. Shiva and the other two were so excited that they screamed. Then may I ask, sir, how can our fruits be transported here after such a long journey? Moreover, we have tried before. It is very difficult to transport aquatic products and fruits here. Along the way we have to go through layers of screening. We can't be careless. Basically, we can't pass Jiangnan. Everything stinks. This was a difficult problem. But how could this stump Master Zhang? He waved his hand and said, I was wondering what kind of problem it was. So it's just this trivial matter? I'll tell you. Have you heard about the water wheel that the Tang Dynasty used to support Tubo? As long as you can please His Majesty, he will reward you with 100 water wheels. Then you can transport fruits and aquatic products to Chang'an, and as I said, and those aquatic products are still alive and kicking. Really? Zhenla is at least tens of thousands of miles away from Chang'an. What kind of thing can transport those things here? Everyone in the world knew about the water wheel. How could they not know? But that thing was a drought-resistant thing. How could it be used here? Zhang Feng rubbed his hands slyly. Shiva immediately knew what was going on. He hurriedly undid an emerald belt from his waist and handed it to Zhang Feng reluctantly. He said with a smile, Master Zhang, this belt? Before Shiva could tell him the origin of the belt, Zhang Feng exclaimed, good stuff. Then the belt appeared on Zhang Feng's waist. Where did this thing come from? Zhang Feng was too lazy to ask and he was too lazy to listen. Wasn't this a whole piece of emerald that was hollowed out and carved out? Although it looked good, it was a waste of God's gift if it was on you. He put away the belt. At this time, Zhang Feng said seriously, Prince Shiva, don't take this thing out again. I, Zhang Feng, don't care about such vulgar things. However, this emerald is good stuff. I like it very much. Without waiting for Shiva to speak, Zhang Feng also knew that it was time. Why did this grandson have a small warehouse on him? The table was full of things. How could he take them out from his body? Cough, cough. Listen carefully. This water wheel was invented by me. What? Is what Master Zhang said true? Shiva exploded. He knew that this thing was very precious. They had never even seen the real thing. But now, in Chang'an City of the Tang Dynasty, someone in a small tavern in the city said that he made this thing? If someone else had said that, Shiva would definitely have chuckled and spat in his heart. But after seeing Zhang Feng's wine pot and reclining chair, and then hearing Zhang Feng's mysterious business lecture, Shiva suddenly felt that he had hit the jackpot today. He had met a god. Chapter 143. Zhang Feng was so embarrassed that he was about to get cancer. Being stared at by two dark monkeys with shining eyes, no matter how thick-skinned he was, he could not help but feel flustered. He hastily coughed and said, "You should think about this matter carefully. As for the water wheel, if you understand, I will tell you how to transport seafood and fruits, as well as the method of preserving freshness. Now, I will tell you another way to make the country prosper. Are you interested?" Yes. Shiva wished he could strangle Zhang Feng's neck and shake out the things in his head. Seeing that Zhang Feng was finally not long-winded, he was so excited that his muscles were cheering. What a good man. If he could solve the problem of hunger and make Jinla prosper, then everything else was nonsense. Seeing Shiva like this, Zhang Feng smacked his lips and said with waning interest, "Actually, you really deserve to die. I remember there is a small island south of where you live, about 10 days by boat. That island is rich in spices. That thing is everywhere. You only need a piece of broken knife to exchange for a big bag. Do you know how much that thing can be sold for in Chang'an?" "How much?" Shiva and Dara's eyes were wide open. 100 coins. A whole 100 coins. Hiss. Shiva could not help but gasp. He knew that place, but he only knew that those things could only be used to smoke rooms and mosquitoes in summer in his palace. Most of the time the people cut them for firewood. But now when he heard Zhang Feng's words, Shiva's face turned red. Damn it. He had wasted so many things for nothing. Not to mention selling a bag for 100 coins, even if he could sell a big cart for 100 coins or exchange it for a cart of food, he was already so excited that he was about to cry. After all, up until now, most people in Jinla were basically hungry and full. Thinking of this, he could not help but want to beat himself to death. Hurriedly grabbing Zhang Feng's hand, Shiva asked excitedly, "Master Zhang, may I ask if those things you mentioned are sold in Chang'an? I don't want to wait a moment longer. You should also know the difficulties my people are facing now." In the depths of his emotions, this guy actually acted out a sad scene, wiping his snot and tears on Zhang Feng's sleeve. Zhang Feng hurriedly pushed him away in disgust. He seriously doubted whether this guy had some kind of genes. Oh, didn't Sawati Ka have such fetishes? At the thought of this, Zhang Feng's entire body was covered in goosebumps. Okay. Stop crying, you're a man. Come. Since this old man has said it, the spit of a man of the great Tang is a nail in his mouth. As long as you shut your mouth, this old man will tell you right now. Zhang Feng was so embarrassed that he had cancer of embarrassment. It was fine if he didn't think about his past life, but when he thought about it, Zhang Feng instantly exploded. He hurriedly shook off Shiva and hid on Dala's bench, seeking comfort. Dala was so embarrassed that his face was as red as a ripe peach. "I'll write it down for you. Otherwise, with your IQ, I think you'll forget it all before you go out." Zhang Feng flung Shiva's hand away in disgust. He glared at Shiva, who was sitting far away from him. Then he wrote and drew on the paper as he spoke. Spices are more popular in the aristocratic circle of the Tang Dynasty. Now, the main source of spices in the Tang Dynasty is Persia, Shuiyantua, and Dashi, which is thousands of miles away. However, these spices are not as pure as your Jinlas. But remember, there are a group of Russians and native monkeys living there. As for whether you can get them, it depends on you. Also, look at this hell flower I drew. You have to stay away from this thing. If you have any evil intentions and bring it to the Tang Dynasty, I can guarantee that not only will you not be able to earn money, but that will also be the day of your Jinla's destruction. Hellflower? Prince Jinla nodded his head like a chicken pecking rice. He had seen that stuff before. Eating it would make people go crazy, and it would also make people lose their minds. That stuff had basically been burned to death. However, seeing Zhang Feng mention it so seriously, Shiva was so shocked that he broke out in cold sweat. Zhang Feng's calligraphy was very good. Although it could not be compared to a calligraphy master, it had its own unique flavor. As for whether Jinla could understand it or not, he didn't care. He wrote the words Zhang Feng at the end in big letters. Then he looked at Shiva as if he was looking at a monster. "I'm giving this to you because we're fated to be together. Do as you see fit. Also remember one thing. I remember that you have this thing on the Jinla beach, right?" As Zhang Feng spoke, he took out a fist-sized piece of black and slightly yellowish salt ore from the counter and asked. Prince Jinla looked at the salt ore and said doubtfully, "Isn't this thing poisonous salt? I have a lot of it. Is Master Zhang interested?" Interested? Zhang Feng's teeth were hurting. He bared his white teeth and asked, "I can eat as much as you have." Chapter 144. Siwa and Dala looked at each other. They looked at Zhang Feng as if they were looking at a monster. This thing had troubled them for generations. Because of this thing they could not grow food. Many things could not be grown. Moreover, there were so many of these things that it made one's hair stand on end. They could not eat it. Not to mention that not a single blade of grass grew nearby, even animals did not dare to come close. But now, this mysterious Master Zhang actually wanted it? That's really too good. Deal? It was rare for Siwa to not be shy. He grabbed Zhang Feng's hand, scaring Zhang Feng so much that he bounced up reflexively and almost jumped into Dala's arms. Don't. It's improper for men to touch each other. Please respect yourself. I'm a very self-disciplined person. Zhang Feng waved his hand repeatedly. Then he glanced at Dala, coughed and sat still. He regained the demeanor of an expert and said, I want to ask, do you have a lot of these things there? Siwa sighed. Master Zhang, are you testing my sincerity? I know that Master Zhang must have been to Jinla. Otherwise, it would be impossible for you to know so much about Jinla. Don't you know that there is at least an area of a city in the south of Jinla with this thing? Every year we spend a lot of manpower and financial resources to manage this thing, but this thing is like the stones in the ground. There are so many of them that it makes one's hair stand on end. This is the main reason why our people can't fill their stomachs. I didn't expect Master Zhang to like this thing too. If that's the case, I'll make the decision and give it to Master Zhang. But my country's strength is limited, and this thing is rich in poison. So, if you want it, you can dig it up yourself. No matter how much you want, Jinla will open the door and give it to you. He was not stupid. As the prince of a country, he had seen Zhang Feng's magical ability. If he still did not know that Zhang Feng was after their thing, then he would really be a pig. Zhang Feng's head was a little twisted. He thought that this guy was easy to fool, but he did not expect that he would be led into a ditch. Could he go to Jinla? Could he go? He couldn't go. If he did, it would no longer be a treasure. It was quite simple to refine this thing. As long as his people dared to go, the art of making salt would definitely be leaked in less than half a year. Zhang Feng's mouth twitched. His expression didn't change as he glanced at Shiva and said, I have some use for this thing, but it's not that useful. I know a merchant who buys this stuff. If you want to sell it, I estimate that a cart of this stuff can be exchanged for 10 caddies of grain. Do you want to trade? Zhang Feng spoke without blushing or panting. After saying that, he couldn't stand Shiva anymore and took a sip of wine from his bowl. Then, he put away the paper on the table and prepared to leave. However, at this moment, Shiva seemed to have realized that if he didn't agree to this matter, then everything they had discussed before would be for nothing. Because until now, Master Zhang only told him that those things could make him rich, but he didn't tell him the ultimate goal. He also knew that this poisonous salt seemed to be an additional condition. Although he didn't know what Zhang Feng wanted this thing for, he didn't ask. A cart of trash could be exchanged for 10 caddies of grain. That was just a saying. 100 carts could be exchanged. Heavens! Thinking of the countless poisonous salts, his eyes burned with passion. He gritted his teeth and pressed down on the corner of the letter, saying, Master Zhang, let's talk things over. If you want me to give you a few carts of this thing, it's not a problem. It's not about the grain or not. If you really want to do business with this thing, then I'll be serious. A cart of 10 caddies of grain, I'll take it seriously? Zhang Feng smiled and sat down again. He patted Shiva's shoulder that was full of dust and said, That's right. This thing is actually not worth much. I'm just testing you to see if you have the sincerity to do business with Jinla. I can guarantee that the people I know are powerful enough to take all of the things I mentioned before. But as for everything else, you'll have to discuss it yourselves. I just saw you because of fate. As he spoke, he removed Shiva's hand and crumpled the paper into a ball under Shiva's and Dala's fierce gazes. Dala didn't care about anything else. Although he was blushing, the beauty hidden under his dark skin made him look a little more pleasing to the eye. Otherwise, Zhang Feng wouldn't have been so unscrupulous. Master Zhang, my brother and I came to Chang, and to solve the grain problem of Jinla. Today we saw so much grain in Chang and city and heard that His Majesty the Tang Emperor is stockpiling grain. Therefore we have to discuss this matter seriously. We will tell my father everything that happened today. This matter must be approved by him personally. You should discuss this matter as soon as possible. After all, I've only met that businessman twice. Maybe he will go to Dashi on that day. He had finally taken the bait. Lao Tzu was going to become the savior of Sawatika. Lao Tzu, I've added another bargaining chip for your life. I hope your bad temper doesn't kill you now. Otherwise, Lao Tzu would really be alone in the Tang Dynasty. Chapter 145. Achoo. in Taiji Palace. At the same time, Li Shimin sneezed loudly. He was originally copying Zhang Feng's handwriting, but now the brush drew a long horizontal line on the paper. Li Shimin frowned. He muttered, "Who is talking about me? Second brother. You are being paranoid." Zhang Sun Wugo glared at Li Shimin and helped him put on a cloak. "You have been standing for 6 hours, don't tire yourself out." Li Shimin put down the brush and patted the back of Zhang Sun Wugo's hand. He gently hugged her from behind and said with incomparable tenderness, "Guanyin maid, what do you think of Zhang Feng?" Zhang Feng. Zhang Sun Wugo thought for a moment. He glanced at the paintings in the study and said calmly, "Although I have never seen this person before, for this person to be able to write such a world-shaking poem that even the great scholars of the present age and the great literary heroes are unable to create, this in itself is a miracle." Moreover, the drought in Longyu was easily resolved by him while drinking and chatting merrily. He also used a small price to make Tubo and Tuyuhun fall into his endless schemes. Even if Zhuge Liang was alive, he could not compare to this. However, his status is low after all. If second brother insists on recruiting him now, I feel that it is still somewhat lacking in consideration. No. Guanyin maid. Li Shimin turned Zhang Sun Wugo's graceful body around and said, "I know that the time is not right." He himself said that the time is not right. Therefore, I want to send Qingqian, Qingke and Ke to the tavern to learn his unique way of governing and the way of business. What do you think? No. Zhang Sun Wugo's face was filled with shock as she hurriedly interrupted Li Shimin. Although this child's abilities are exceptional, he is still a commoner. If the emperor wants to send the crown prince and the other princes to the tavern, what will happen to the court? This will shake the entire country. But, Li Shimin's face was full of bitterness. He was anxious to say something. However, before he could say anything, Empress Jiangxuan's little hand pressed against his lips. "Second brother. I know that you want Qingqian and the others to learn a few more things as soon as possible, but have you thought about Hongwen and Imperial College? Do you want to be condemned by all the civil officials in the court?" Seeing Li Shimin's gloomy expression, Zhang Sun Wugo gently said, "This concubine knows that in the imperial court, you are a lonely warrior. You long for someone to stand in your shoes and help you without a shred of selfishness. This concubine also knows that Zhang Feng's position in your heart has already surpassed everyone else. But this matter needs to be taken slowly. At the very least, Zhang Feng still needs a noble title." Li Shimin had a flash of inspiration. "Yes. We will immediately issue an edict to bestow him a noble title. This way, all the civil and military officials in the court will not have a single word of complaint." "Your Majesty." Zhang Sun Wugo hurriedly blocked the agitated Li Shimin. "What name are you using? Right now the matter of Tubo cannot be exposed. Moreover, the true effects of the water will have not been revealed. Even if the contribution of the salt-making technique is meritorious, this is not the time." Li Shimin vexed and viciously broke the red sandalwood jade brush. He sighed, "It is rare for us to have a close friend. However, we can't do anything right now. Only something as insignificant as money can express one's sincerity. However, Guanyin servant, you should know that Zhang Feng's goal is not money. If he wants to be rich enough to rival a country, then the method of cooking locusts, as well as the mysterious wine and delicacies, which one of these would not allow him to make a fortune. However, he did not. Perhaps it is because he is too lonely." At this time, Li Shimin somewhat believed Zhang Feng's words. He was an old monster who had lived for 5,000 years. However, when he thought of his exaggerated and indifferent way of speaking, it was completely to talk about loneliness. It was because he was lonely, endlessly lonely, that he told me everything. But how could Li Shimin not know the importance of each and every one of these things? If he really wanted to make money, he could completely know the value of the water wheel, and it was not only so much. However, the money given to him, he did not even count it and took it into his arms? It seemed that he was greedy for money, but in fact he was hiding his loneliness. Was this the attitude of looking at the overall situation? When can we have such charm? Originally he was prepared to find Zhang Feng earlier today. However, the trivial matters of Chang and city as well as the matter of the foreign envoys made him extremely busy. Only now did he have some free time. However, when he was free his mind was full of Zhang Feng. At this time, Li Shimin had an urgent hope. He urgently hoped that Zhang Feng could be by his side and let him stand in the main hall of the political announcement palace. He wanted to let those decadent and useless civil officials see that the Tang dynasty was not only decadent people like them who only cared about their own interests and did not have the slightest intention to improve and innovate for the Tang dynasty. Thinking of this, He looked at the fiery sunset outside the window. Li Shimin put his hands behind his back, like a lonely wolf, looked up at the sky and said, "Guanyin servant, follow me out of the palace to see that bastard." Chapter 146. In the end, Empress Zhang Sun still didn't follow Li Shimin. This time, Li Shimin didn't bring anyone with him. He brought Xiao Gizi and Wei Shuyu's team of Jinwu guards, changed into the gorgeous clothes of merchants, and turned into the East Market through the Yanxi Gate. At this moment, Zhang Feng, who was thirsty, paid the price of a poem by Li Bai and completely exploited Shiva and Dala. Then he waved his sleeve and said, "I'm tired. Please go back." The two trembled with fear as they held Zhang Feng's calligraphy. They kicked the servants who were pretending to be asleep awake and then bowed and left Zhang Feng's store. Shiva even tactfully closed the door for him. When he hid behind the door and heard the sound of footsteps gradually fading away, Zhang Feng's mouth was about to reach his ears. "I'm rich. I'm really rich. Jade. They're all top-grade jade. Damn these idiots. Although they're stupid, they're really rich." Looking at the table full of jadeite and other valuable items, Zhang Feng concluded that if he sold these things, he would definitely be able to amass an unimaginable amount of wealth in a short period of time. But was he greedy? Greedy my ass. He was a collector. He liked this name. He couldn't bear to see good things being covered in dust. Anything in the hands of others was equivalent to asking for his old life. Any one of these things, if passed down to the future, would be a priceless treasure. He was thinking if he could return to the modern world after the system was activated, should he bring Lao Li and the others to see the modern Chang'an city? Presumably, Lao Li and the others would be so excited that they would suddenly have a heart attack, right? While looking at the table full of treasures and laughing foolishly, Zhang Feng didn't notice that the door of the tavern was opened again. A voice that was cloaked in the setting sun appeared in his ears. "Shopkeeper? Who are you trying to rob? Why are there suddenly so many treasures?" The person who came was Li Shimin. After seeing the treasures on the table, he was envious. He couldn't help it. He was poor. In the Tang Dynasty he needed money. Moreover, the Emperor Emeritus's birthday was about to be celebrated. He was having a headache about money. Now, seeing the table full of money, his eyes couldn't help but light up. But at this moment, Zhang Feng was like a hen protecting its chicks. He pounced on the table and stuffed all the treasures on the table into his clothes, leaving only the string of pearls and some small parts outside. Seeing this, Li Shimin says, "Yo, Lao Li, I thought you were caught in the prison." Zhang Feng laughed and threw all the treasures on the floor inside the counter as if they were rubbish. Then he clapped his hands. "Tavern He Feng." He took out a jug of fine wine from the counter and said, "What's going on today? You don't seem to be in a good mood." Ignoring Zhang Feng's jesting, Li Shimin looked at Zhang Feng with interest, looking him up and down. Zhang Feng was a little angry. He had just experienced Sawadika. There were still many shadows in his heart. He didn't expect that before he could recover, he would be stared at by Lao Li again. It would be strange if he didn't explode. Ahem. Zhang Feng coughed. Li Shimin retracted his gaze playfully. Looking at a dropped earring on the table, he teased, "So you brat, you robbed Yan Lai restaurant? Get lost." Zhang Feng, who was embarrassed into anger, shamelessly put the earring in his pocket and said, "If I had that ability, I wouldn't have opened a small tavern. By the way, why are you here? Where are they?" Seeing that Zhang Feng didn't say anything, Li Shimin didn't bother to ask. "They're all busy stocking up grain now. They're very busy during this period of time." Zhang Feng was puzzled. "Then why are you so free? You still have the leisure to come here? Tell me, did you get into trouble? Waiting for me to bail them out?" He didn't believe Li Shimin's words when he was eating. But Li Shimin didn't intend to say anything about this. This matter did go wrong, but fortunately Lord Zhang Sun will take care of everything. We're fine for the time being. We're fine. That's good. Lao Li, you have a good life. Now that you've met me, you see everything is going smoothly. Li Shimin rolled his eyes at Zhang Feng. Don't be confused. Seriously, do these things belong to those Jinla messengers? Don't say no. This jade is a special product of Jinla. It's precious. You know, this earring can be sold for more than 10 taels of gold in the circle of noblewomen. With Li Shimin's sharp eyes, how could he not know who the people who just went out were? But looking at their clothes, other than the clothes, the rest of the ornaments were all gone. Even Prince Jinla's belt and Princess Jinla's head ornament were gone. What could this mean? This guy must have cheated them badly. Seeing that his lie was exposed, Zhang Feng stopped pretending. He smiled and said, "When I saw so many people stocking up grain in Chang'an City, I thought something had happened to you. I was thinking of getting some money and using my connections to bail you out. I didn't expect that my efforts were in vain. However, Zhang Feng changed the topic and said mysteriously, Lao Li, I have a big business deal. Do you dare to do it? Chapter 147. Li Shimin's eyelids twitched. He forcibly suppressed the urge to ask Zhang Feng how to solve the predicament in Chang and City and his father's conflict. He narrowed his eyes and asked, what kind of deal is so mysterious? Is it related to Zhenla? As expected of Lao Li, his brain was better than Old Wei and Lai Sun's. I guessed it from those fools. Li Shimin curled his lips. Even a fool could guess it, okay? However, Zhang Feng's words were very effective on him. It was very strange. There was no shortage of flatterers in the court, but Li Shimin was annoyed when he saw them. He wanted to kill them, but he was looking forward to Zhang Feng's praise. And it was the kind of praise that was full of sarcasm. This made Li Shimin very happy. He cupped his hands and personally took a jar of wine from the counter. Without waiting for Zhang Feng's instructions, he opened the mud seal and drank from the jar. What kind of friendship do we have? Although we have never been on the battlefield, but it can be considered a friendship of life and death. Everything that I have now is all because of your guidance. Just tell me, what kind of deal? I've been waiting for you, Lao Li. Zhang Feng pulled Li Shimin to sit beside him. He hooked his arm around Li Shimin's neck and said, I'll tell you. Do you know why Zhenla's people were like that just now? What? Oh right, I forgot. How did you manage to trick them into giving you something so precious? Trick. Zhang Feng glanced at Li Shimin and immediately showed a look of disdain. Do you think I, Zhang Feng, relied on trickery? I relied on my own ability, okay? But this stupid prince is really AF * king rich idiot. TSK. He took out the jade pendant on La's neck and shook it, making Li Shimin want to snatch it. This is the filial piety money I gave them when I pointed them out. I earned it with my own ability. Then tell me, how did you point them out? Li Shimin was interested and forgot many of his troubles. It seemed that only in this small tavern could he really show his true nature. Do you know what Zhenla's specialty is? Zhang Feng asked mysteriously. Li Shimin was really confused. What did Zhenla produce? Every year the tributes were basically ordinary goods. In that place, people were so poor that they couldn't even afford to wear pants. What else could they offer? But seeing Zhang Feng's expression, Li Shimin couldn't help but become excited. Did you find something new? Yes. Let me ask you, Old Li, have you ever heard of relying on the mountain to live off the mountain and the water to live off the water? I've heard of it. And this matter has been taught by the Han people for generations. Li Shimin was sure. Alas. Zhang Feng sighed. Do you know that idiot Zhenla doesn't even know this? Don't you think it's infuriating? Born in a treasure mountain, but starved to madness. I think in the whole world Zhenla is so naive and cute. Just tell me, what did you find? Li Shimin didn't wait for Zhang Feng to finish his long-winded speech and hurriedly poured him a bowl of wine and asked. Don't worry. Listen to me first. This matter is related to the long-term supply of table salt and the important point of whether the Tang Dynasty can firmly control the surrounding countries. So powerful? Li Shimin was also shocked. He hurriedly put down the irritation in his heart. He listened carefully. Zhang Feng was not in a hurry now. What do the coastal areas rely on for a living, Lao Li? Fishing. The coastal areas of the Tang Dynasty rely on fish for a living. Isn't Zhenla doing the same? Zhang Feng shook his head and asked again, then what do they catch? Fish, just fish. Is there anything delicious in the sea? No way. Zhang Feng wanted to vomit blood. The sea. The coastal areas. What kind of place was that? That was a treasure bowl. Let me tell you, the most worthless thing in the sea is fish. Do you think those skinny, salty fish taste good? Li Shimin shrugged and sighed. You may not know. Sea fish are basically an important way to extract salt from the sea. The inland relies on this salt to survive. What do you think these sea fish mean? Wrong? Zhang Feng looked at Li Shimin as if looking at a fool and said, I really doubt you. Are you a businessman? Can't you think this way? Let me tell you, the most worthless thing in the sea is fish. And those things that you think are the most unsightly are the real good things. While talking, Zhang Feng took out a piece of paper again. He seriously drew the shape of a sea cucumber on the paper and said, This thing is called sea cucumber ginseng. You know it, right? I know this. But what does it have to do with this? Is this sea cucumber also a tonic? Zhang Feng exploded. It's more than a tonic. This thing is a great tonic. Do you know? If you eat too much of this thing, it can replenish qi and blood and also nourish the kidney. Let's not talk about other benefits for the time being. Look at this. While talking, he drew lobsters again, especially Australian lobsters, seahorses, starfish, and so on. These are all tonics. When some things are combined with each other, it will be a medicinal herb. Extremely precious medicinal herbs. And this shell, this thing, grind it into powder, add some medicinal herbs and add some pearls. It's a supreme treasure for women to beautify and whiten their skin. Zhang Feng's saliva flew everywhere as he talked. In the end, he tinkered with a set of things for the beauty and skin care of later generations. And Li Shimin's whole body froze. Chapter 148. If it was before, Li Shimin would definitely think that Zhang Feng was talking nonsense after drinking. He would naturally take it as a joke. However, this was Zhang Feng. Zhang Feng who had once saved him. How could his words be false? However, thinking about it, Li Shimin felt particularly awkward. Such a good thing, how could he not recognize it in front of him? How could he not feel uncomfortable? Moreover, Zhang Feng had just said that there was a treasure mountain in Jinla. Wouldn't Li Shimin be the same? Li Shimin's face was about to turn green. He stared and asked, "Then do you mean that there are treasures everywhere by the sea? Are you questioning the current emperor's blindness?" No. You don't dare to say that. Zhang Feng hurriedly stuffed Li Shimin's mouth with a fried yellow crab. If someone were to hear this, they would be dug out of their graves and whipped their corpses. Although Zhang Feng had no relatives in this world, he was afraid. In this feudal society, he did not dare to be careless. "Laoli, I say you're stubborn. If you continue to talk about the state affairs and the current emperor so foolishly, our fate will end here." "Who is that?" "That's the current emperor. The good emperor who almost knelt down to the people for the sake of the people. Take a lantern and look for him. Look through the history books and see which emperor is better than the current emperor." Zhang Feng's method of giving a piece of meat with a stick made Li Shimin extremely uncomfortable, but he also enjoyed such treatment. He did not know if he was cheap or not. But at this time it was no longer important. He was short of money. Now, as long as he heard that he could make money, he would want to take it as if he was crazy. Moreover, Zhang Feng said it in such a mysterious and dignified manner. Could it be that this little Jinla is so important? What you just said, I believe there are also some in the waters of the Tang Dynasty, right? Why should Jinla benefit while the people of the Tang Dynasty suffer? Before you do. Don't they always say that they want to stimulate the economy and set up cooperatives? Why is that? I said you're stupid. You're still a god, you're really stupid. Zhang Feng was filled with disdain. Let me ask you, this ocean is only so big, but how many people did the Tang Dynasty have? If it was prosperous, the Tang Dynasty would have to rely on the sea for the rest of its life. What about the next generation? The next generation, they ate up everything in the sea. What are you eating now? Are you stupid? Even rabbits don't eat the grass near their burrows. Why do you always want to eat all the grass around your nest? Wait for the hunters to come and become a delicacy? Li Shimin was once met with a supercilious look. But this time, Li Shimin was not angry. Instead, he was incomparably shocked. Zhang Feng was very direct. They had enough to eat for the rest of their lives, but what could they leave for their descendants? Just leave behind a mess? How could they be immortalized? They would go down in infamy for 10,000 years. Li Shimin could not help but break out in a cold sweat. His forehead was full of sweat. Priceless advice. Li Shimin smiled bitterly. I've read poetry and books, but I've forgotten such an obvious truth. As he spoke, Li Shimin stood up solemnly and bowed to Zhang Feng. And Zhang Feng accepted it happily. Li Shimin could understand this truth and he was very satisfied. At the very least, if there were more such merchants, the Tang Dynasty would not only last for 300 years. And there would be a lot more legacies that could be left behind. This was what Zhang Feng was most satisfied with. He was not satisfied. When the time came, he would buy Australian sponges from abroad for a few hundred yuan per caddy. This thing was not valuable, but he could only watch it be cheated. What? Because it was extinct. Because of those idiots in history, it was extinct. The future generations wanted to eat it. Sure. Please go abroad and buy it for tens or hundreds of times the price. If Zhang Feng's plan was implemented with Lao Li, Zhang Feng could foresee that in the future the whole world would be bought by the Tang Dynasty and the people of Wuxia. After it was all bought, sorry, but do you want to eat it? Come. Lao Tzu could sell as much as he wanted. You don't want to buy it? Get lost. That was heroism. Wuxia lacked such heroism. That heroism was originally there, but it was obliterated by the extension of history. Zhang Feng's appearance was to prevent Huaxia from suffering any humiliation in the future, although he did not have any illusions. But the moment he transmigrated to the Tang dynasty, he had such a dream, since he was here, the most prosperous Tang dynasty in history. Then let the Huaxia people in their heyday, let them surpass everything, cross the ocean, and let the flag of the Tang dynasty be planted on every inch of land in the world. Let them be free labor for the Tang dynasty. Only then would it be worthy of Zhang Feng's title of the Emperor of Eternity. The Emperor of Eternity who truly completed the unification of the world, not the half-baked Emperor Qin Shi Huang and Emperor Wu of Han. At this moment, Li Shimin was sighing. His heart was spreading and burning. And Zhang Feng was the same. At this moment he suddenly felt that the world in the future was no longer so narrow. He was no longer alone. Which chivalrous person was not a lonely fighter? It was just that he let the trajectory of history, under the premise of normal operation, let him turn faster and farther. That was what he wanted to do in the future. Since he was here. Then he had to leave some memories. For Huaxia he would leave a thick and colorful mark. Chapter 149. Li Shimin was very shocked. Such a brilliant plan. This was really a plan to eradicate the family. This plan might be carried out for several generations or even dozens of generations. But in his hands he was the person at the helm of this plan. He controlled the future of this plan. This was even more exciting for his dream of a golden age where all countries would pay homage to him. Although he knew that he would not live until then. But at this time he could imagine the expressions of those foreigners who would kneel in front of his tomb and tell him about his deeds thousands of years later when all countries came to pay homage to him. Li Shimin could not help but laugh at his fantasy of a golden age. And Zhang Feng did not disturb him. He knew that Lao Li was enlightened. This was a kind of sublimation. It was also a part of his plan. The great Tang needed merchants like this. These honest merchants lacked the scheming and deceit of the later generations, only a patriotism. This was rare and commendable. He had simply helped the lost find the lighthouse in their hearts at the right time. Hey, Lao Li, are you thinking about the future? Zhang Feng stared at Li Shimin and asked with a smile. Li Shimin's dream was shattered. Not only did he not blame Zhang Feng, but there were also traces of tears in his eyes. Yes. I see the future, no. 10 years later, the golden age of the Tang dynasty. That is what we want to see the most. When we go to every corner of the world, we only need to show the name of the Tang dynasty, and the whole world will bow down to us. What a glory this is. We are no longer the four-legged sheep that others say, and no longer the target that anyone can bully. They can only carve 2 words in their bones. The Tang dynasty. But, what a pity. There are too few people in the Tang dynasty who can have such awareness. Li Shimin shook his head. He abruptly picked up the wine jug and poured it over his head to hide the tears at the corners of his eyes. That's quite a lot. Zhang Feng patted Li Shimin's shoulder and said, "Let me tell you a story. Once upon a time, heavenly lightning struck a forest, and a huge fire burned in the forest for more than 100 days. There were flames everywhere in the air, just like the stars in the sky. Among them, one of the sparks was the size of a fingernail at first, but it drifted, and in the end, it was only the size of a needle tip that was about to extinguish. When he was about to die out, he landed on a withered grassland. Then he slowly used the remaining heat of his ashes to ignite the entire grassland." Li Shimin listened attentively. It was as if he was the spark in front of him. Li Shimin cried out in surprise when he heard that spark had used its last bit of heat to ignite the entire grassland. And then? Zhang Feng glanced at Li Shimin and patted him on the shoulder. After that, the grassland burned for an entire year. The soil was burned until it was bright red. Everyone shook their heads and sighed. This place could no longer grow a single grass seed. However, after a rain, everyone was shocked to find that this grassland had once again bloomed with even more luxuriant weeds than before. This? Li Shimin was shocked. Zhang Feng looked at him, dipped the brush in the ink box and waved the brush on the gray-white wall. A single spark can start a prairie fire. The spring breeze moistens things silently. Fire can start a prairie fire silently. Although it was a poem that was pieced together. Li Shimin was shocked. Looking at the words on the wall, he couldn't help but be shocked. A single spark can start a prairie fire. The spring breeze moistens things silently. Fire can start a prairie fire silently. God. Zhang Feng, this. Lao Li, I hope that you must pass on this sentence for generations to come. Don't underestimate a single spark. Its momentum of starting a prairie fire is unstoppable. No force can stop it. However, it is a catalyst that burns rotten traditions, breaks and establishes and moves forward. Li Shimin choked. The spark. The spark. Right now, what his imperial court needed the most was a spark of fire. Everyone was adhering to the rules. How could they let the cavalry of the Tang dynasty take another step forward? Although there was a powerful strategy and an unprecedented planning ability, no one carried it out. This was the momentum of starting a prairie fire. This was how the lofty skyscraper toppled. Zhang Feng. Laoli, am unable to repay your kindness to me. Don't say that you will repay me with your body. I will kill you. Zhang Feng was speechless. He hurriedly supported Li Shimin's kneeling posture and said speechlessly. Zhang Feng's words perfectly resolved the crisis. Because just now, on the beam of his house, Wei Shuyu's crossbow was already aimed at him. That's enough, Laoli. Let's not be pretentious. Every one of us has a role to play and a mission that we need to complete. I am the one who will make this wheel turn, and you are the one who will make the wheel turn. Laoli, do you want to build a prosperous Tang dynasty with me? Chapter 150. Yes. Why wouldn't I? Li Shimin didn't even think about it. Until now, he no longer had any doubts about the mystery of Zhang Feng's origin. Damn it. Zhang Feng is from the Tang dynasty. Does he still want to harm the Tang dynasty? Let all the doubts go to hell. Seeing Li Shimin so determined, Zhang Feng nodded. Then he said, this is why I strongly recommended Dahai to Zhen La. When they throw themselves into the sea and happily transport goods to the Tang dynasty, Zhen La is really a Zhen La. In fact, he is a member of the Tang dynasty. I am a dog of the Tang dynasty. What a vicious plan. However, Li Shimin's fists were clenched tightly. He was extremely excited. Wei Shuyu, who was on the beam, was also shocked by Zhang Feng's plan. It could even be said that Zhang Feng's words just now opened the door to another world for him. He had heard the name Zhang Feng from his father for a long time, but even if he asked anything about Zhang Feng, his father didn't say a word. Today he was lucky enough to accompany the emperor out of the palace. He didn't expect to see the mysterious person who was highly praised by his father and all his uncles, and who hid very well. Today he secretly sneaked into the beam of the tavern without anyone knowing. He was worried about the emperor and wanted to see how powerful Zhang Feng was. Now he saw it. She took a deep look at Zhang Feng. He seemed to be about the same age as her, but he had such talent. He was able to make her father shocked, praise him all day long and admire his calligraphy all day long. This was something that Wei Shuyu would never forget for the rest of her life. He glanced at the words on the wall again and silently remembered them in his heart. Then he quietly sneaked out. Zhang Feng, I'm looking forward to the golden age of the Tang dynasty that you mentioned. Regarding this, Li Shimin and Zhang Feng did not notice at all. However, this did not affect their conversation. From the price of the aquatic products to how to sell them, and so on, Li Shimin smacked his lips and said, this Zhen La is really sitting on a treasure mountain. Tell me, what else does he have? What else? Zhang Feng smiled. They have a lot of things. While talking, Zhang Feng showed off a handful of jade and said, look at this thing, this is a good treasure. In the future, everything will be yours and mine. Are you satisfied? Also, do you know how profitable the best spices on the market are? Li Shimin was shocked. Touching the sachet on his belt, he asked, could it be that Zhen La also has this thing? This thing costs 100 strings of coins per caddy. Haha. Zhang Feng smiled faintly. Laoli, what if I tell you that that place not only has another kind of spice in the world, but its price is so low that you'll go crazy? What will you do? How low? Li Shimin went crazy. About 1,000 strings of coins per cart. F***ck. Li Shimin exploded. A whole cart. How many stones would that be? Only 1,000 strings of coins? Li Shimin could not help but have the urge to drool. Looking at Li Shimin's exaggerated appearance, Zhang Feng patted him on the shoulder in annoyance. This is nothing. If you sign a long-term supply contract, the price of that thing will be even lower. And you know that in Zhen La that thing is only used as firewood. Do you believe it? Li Shimin had the urge to order the troops to send out now. Such a good thing, and Zhen La wasted it like this? What a waste. What a reckless waste of resources. How good would it be if it was given to me? How good would it be if I had this thing in the Tang dynasty? Li Shimin went crazy. Zhang Feng looked at Li Shimin's crazy eyes and laughed a few times. He seemed to be a little drunk. He had been drinking since noon. Even the god of wine would be F***king drunk. Let alone him. He got up dizzily, sat on the ground against the wall, patted the floor beside him and waved his hand. Li Shimin simply sat cross-legged on the floor. Zhang Feng said mysteriously, "This thing is just one of them. There is another thing that you should have heard of, that is lychee and bananas. You are used to calling them ganjiao. There are also many strange fruits. Because of poor preservation, they have only been sold in the places closest to the Tang Dynasty. I gave them an idea. Let these fruits and seafood be transported to Chang and fresh." "What idea?" Li Shimin asked. Among the tributes of Zhenla there were indeed fruits, but they were basically dried fruits. He craved those things. Not only him but the empress and the others also liked those things. Moreover, every time Zhenla came to offer tributes, the noblewomen of Chang and would pester the ministers and often come to him. What idea could he have? Everyone was wringing their hands. If only there were fresh ones. But now, Zhang Feng actually came up with an idea? This aroused Li Shimin's great interest. "What else is there? It's just a water wheel." Zhang Feng rolled his eyes. "Are you stupid? That thing could be used to fight the drought and it could even be sold. Otherwise, are you going to use the useless water wheel to chop firewood?" Chapter 151. Li Shimin's head was swollen and hurting badly now. He felt dizzy. It was as if someone had hit him hard with a stick. His original plan was to sell the remaining 80,000 water wheels to Tubo or Tuyuhan. But now it seemed that this plan had to be changed. There was a way out for what was originally a headache. "Do you want it or not? If you don't, I'll turn around and use it for business." This was far more cost-effective than buying a water wheel. How much would it cost to build one? "As long as you Tubo or Tuyuhan have food, my Tang Dynasty will make as much as you want." No. Now it had to be changed. He couldn't use the wood of the Tang Dynasty. "If you want it, exchange it with wood." Li Shimin suddenly felt that he was so wise and mighty. Brother Zhang Feng, just say it. What other good things do you have? Just tell me all of them. Don't spill the beans. It's really making me anxious." Li Shimin couldn't wait any longer. He couldn't wait to go back and personally summon Prince Zhenla and the others. It would be best if he signed the contract tonight for 100 years, no, a 500-year contract. He would directly tie him down. Zhang Feng saw that Li Shimin was really smiling at this time, without the worry when he entered the door and said slowly, "Actually, the map outside Zhenla is very big. They are very wild and barbaric. There are even places where people are still eating raw meat and drinking blood. There are countless resources in such places waiting for us to explore, so Zhenla is our first step. And Zhenla is actually nothing, Laoli." Zhang Feng couldn't help but sigh. He was afraid that what he was about to say would scare him. An endless supply of salt. Even if it was recorded in history that it was mined from the Tang Dynasty, at least during Zhang Feng's time, there were still people mining. Although at that time no one cared about salt. He only went to take a look out of curiosity when he heard the old man in Sawatika talk about it when he was traveling. This was enough to show how abundant the production of this thing was, right? Even after thousands of years they still couldn't finish digging. If this wasn't a treasure, then what was? Zhang Feng wanted to completely turn salt into a cheap commodity. The Zhenla was the key to this. Otherwise, with the amount of salt produced in the Tang Dynasty, not to mention selling it, it wouldn't even be enough for them to eat. But now everything is fine. With this toy, those with big necks could scram to the Tubo Turks, Dashi Empire, and other places. The Tang Dynasty does not welcome you. No, it's Lao Tzu. Zhang Feng doesn't welcome you. Brother Zhang Feng? Brother? Brother, wake up. Originally, Li Shimin had been waiting for Zhang Feng to say something, but after waiting for a long time, he finally realized that Zhang Feng was laughing sinisterly. That smile was so cheap that Li Shimin wished he could slap him away. He shook Zhang Feng to wake him up speechlessly. Zhang Feng coughed without blushing and said, "Laoli, I think you'd better be prepared first. What I'm going to say next don't talk nonsense. Just say it. You're a porcelain hammer." Fine. I'll say it." Zhang Feng was a little speechless. He couldn't even pretend to be cool anymore. "If I'm not comfortable, you won't have it easy either." Thinking of this, Zhang Feng smiled and said, "Do you know what's the most valuable and precious thing of Zhenla? What does the Tang Dynasty need the most now? Don't talk about food. If Zhenla had food, he wouldn't have come to the Tang Dynasty to ask for food." Li Shimin curled his lips. "It's not food. It's something else that concerns the people's livelihood." Li Shimin couldn't figure it out. He was very anxious. There were too many things that concerned the people's livelihood. How could he know what Zhang Feng was up to? Just as Li Shimin was about to strangle Zhang Feng's neck, Zhang Feng stretched out a hand to stop Li Shimin, and then said a word faintly. "Salt. There are countless salt mines that can at least supply all the people in the Tang Dynasty. They won't dry up even after 500 years of free trial. Boom. Li Shimin felt like he was struck by lightning. Otherwise, how could he fall to the ground? And there was a big bump on his forehead. However, all of this was not important. Li Shimin grabbed Zhang Feng's collar and asked with a very serious expression, "What did you say? Say it again?" Zhang Feng was also confused. This Lao Li, why did his expression and aura look a bit like a person? However, at this time he was drunk and dizzy. How could he have the mind to think about who Li Shimin looked like? He patted the shocked Li Shimin and said, "Lao Li, that's where you're wrong. I told you to be prepared. You didn't wet your pants, did you?" Under Li Shimin's murderous gaze, Zhang Feng was terrified. "Okay, I won't tease you anymore. Actually, this is true. I was just casually asking. I didn't expect that at least one city area in Jinla is a poisonous salt mine that even birds and beasts don't dare to enter. I estimated that if we can get it within 500 years of the Tang Dynasty, everyone can buy a caddy of salt for only 1 coin. Li Shimin still didn't believe it. However, he also knew that his attitude was a bit too excited. Fortunately, Zhang Feng was drunk at this time. Otherwise, he would definitely give himself away. Li Shimin smiled bitterly. He still couldn't be as calm as an ancient well. He put his arm around Zhang Feng's shoulder and asked, "Then what kind of price did you pay? I believe that the people of Zhenla can't think of this, right?" You may not be able to guess my answer. Chapter 152. Li Shimin was speechless. He wished he could strangle Zhang Feng to death. This bastard always pretended to be mysterious to keep him in suspense. Couldn't he just say everything he knew in one breath? Would he die? However, salt. Salt that could last the Tang Dynasty for 500 years. This was something Li Shimin dreamed of doing. He just didn't expect that there would be such a treasure in the barren land of Jinla. Ridiculous, ridiculous. Li Shimin sighed. He smiled bitterly and said, "Jinla used to be a barren land because of that, but after what you said, didn't it become a land of treasures?" "Treasures?" Zhang Feng smiled. "If I told you that in the south of that place rice can be grown 3 times a year, would you believe me? If you control the port of Mai, you can make all kinds of seasonings and aromatherapy for food. At that time, if the wheat and sorghum of the north could be successfully cultivated as well as the rice of the south, and they could be obtained from that small tribe, how could there be a famine in the Great Tang by then? By then, even if you don't control Tubo, Tuyuhun, and other countries, the food of the Tang Dynasty will be enough to fill people to death. Other countries will beg you to give them some food." Zhang Feng didn't plan to say this. He was going to keep it as a trump card. When he entered the imperial court, this thing would be the capital for his rise. Although he knew that the imperial court had always been a battlefield, who would dare to oppose him when he controlled the food lifeline of the Tang Dynasty? Lao Tzu wouldn't give you any food even if he had it. "You'll starve to death, you bastard." This was Zhang Feng's life-saving trump card. He didn't dare to use it easily. This encounter with the people of Jinla reminded him of the richness of that place. That was why he kept scolding those people who were sitting on a mountain of treasures and starving to death. They deserved to starve to death. They deserved it. Zhang Feng spat again in his heart before he patted Li Shimin's neck in satisfaction. "Brother, just you wait and see." In their eyes, it was indeed poisonous salt. But as long as it's in our hands, it's a treasure trove. Not only will the people of the Tang Dynasty have salt to eat, but we can also guarantee the consumption of salt in the surrounding countries. The 500 years I said is a conservative estimate. It's an estimate based on the predictions of all the people in the surrounding countries. Gulp. Li Shimin swallowed hard. His voice was a little hoarse. "Brother Zhang, brother, you are my true brother. Let me ask you, what price did you pay? Could it be that you want to marry that dark-skinned princess? Are really a good person? Marry that Darla? No. Lao Li, Lao Tzu was not blind. How could he be interested in such an idiotic woman? He's just sitting there all day, not even letting out a fart. What do I need him for?" Li Shimin sighed again, revealing a, "You know what I mean" look. The look in his eyes was complicated. Although he was trying his best to quibble, Li Shimin understood from the first time he saw Zhang Feng send the 2 of them off. The princess and Zhang Feng were reluctant to part with each other. Men who was not lustful. Men who were not lustful. One was a gentleman who loved openly, and the other was a man who sacrificed his life for the sake of righteousness. Li Shimin suddenly felt that he and Zhang Feng were the same kind of people. They were doing this for the sake of righteousness. Gentlemen. Nothing could be better than this. When we enter the palace, if I let you suffer even a little bit, I, Li Shimin, will pronounce my name backwards. Li Shimin secretly swore. Zhang Feng, on the other hand, was furious. The more furious he was, the more Li Shimin felt that this was likely to be true. In the end, Zhang Feng did not explain. Who cares? Son of a bitch. Was it easy for Lao Tzu? Come on, don't be so upset. Man. Although the Jinla girl is a little tanned, I've been there before. It's the same even if I blow out the lamp. But to be honest, I saw that girl. Other than being a little tanned, her figure is really good. In Chang and City you can't find someone like her. Enough. If you continue, Lao Tzu will get angry with you. Zhang Feng was furious. If he had known, he would not have brought this up. Zhang Feng hurriedly changed the topic. The price I paid this time is actually not much of a price. A cart of poisonous salt or in 10 caddies of food. Do as you see fit. Get lost, get lost. Lao Tzu wants to sleep. Zhang Feng was speechless. He did not want to talk to Li Shimin anymore. This old pervert was always staring at women. Lao Tzu was a good youth of the 21st century. If he did not even have this bit of aesthetic sense, then what was the point of living? I'd rather die. Li Shimin was also furious. He stood up with a bang. He did not even care that his robe was torn. He asked in a trembling voice, "You said, a cart of poisonous salt, 10 caddies of food?" Zhang Feng said in a low muffled voice, "Just 10 caddies. As for what kind of food you give him, it's up to you. I don't care. But you must keep the price as low as possible. Give him a blow and give him a sweet date. Otherwise, if others take advantage of the loophole, or if those people from the Ministry of Revenue and the Ministry of Agriculture find out, you will lose your life." Are my Ministry of Agriculture and Ministry of Revenue so unreliable and greedy? Chapter 153. Li Shimin was at a loss for words. Although he knew that the Ministry of Revenue and the Ministry of Works were very pedantic, was the monthly payment really that serious? What kind of person would be described by Zhang Feng as someone who valued money as much as his life? Brother Zhang Feng, what you said is a little too much. Although I've heard of the Nashi people, they are a little pedantic, but it's not like what you said, right? Li Shimin still wanted to fight for it. He was definitely burning up. Was this his imperial court? This is the imperial court. Zhang Feng testified for him. Zhang Feng's expression was solemn. Although he was tongue-tied, his face was red and his head was dizzy. He still knew the seriousness of the matter. Lao Li, we are brothers. That's why I'm saying so many heartfelt words to you. You must remember that the people don't fight with the officials. You must remember this. Although the current emperor is a good emperor, the group of officials around him are a group of people who have lived a life of wisdom. If it involves their interests or makes them feel that you threaten their interests, they will not hesitate to kill you. This is the reason why I asked you to get in touch with Zhang Sun Wuji. He is the Minister of Justice, the Emperor's brother-in-law, and an experienced official. He knows a little about the ways of the world. So, get along with Zhang Sun Wuji more. Even if you earn a little less, don't provoke the Ministry of Works and the Imperial Court. If such a day comes, you'd rather hand over all the technology and assets you know, or throw them to Zhang Sun Wuji. Run as far as you can. That's the best. The Imperial Court is a nest of corals. Your every move is no different from a flea in their eyes. But once a flea like you touches the foundation of their life, they will slap you to death without hesitation. Zhang Feng said with a heavy heart. Li Shimin was silent. He knew best what the Imperial Court was like, but he was still very grateful to Zhang Feng for his advice. He only dared to say such words because he truly regarded him as a brother. If it were anyone else who would dare to say such words, who would say that? Although Zhen La looked like a fat piece of meat, once this fat piece of meat made people jealous, he would immediately become a piece of smelly meat that attracted flies and smelly bugs. Thinking of this, Li Shimin wanted to get up and give Zhang Feng a Confucian bow, but he couldn't get up after a long time. After a few jars of wine they were all drunk. How could he still have the strength to get up? Li Shimin didn't get up anymore. After some jesting he asked, "In the middle of Jinla there is Nanzhao. It won't be easy to get there." Why? Not a fart. Zhang Feng couldn't take it anymore. He roared with bloodshot eyes. "Do you have a pig's brain? I just told you to get closer to Lord Zhang Sun. It would be best if you could pull in that fearless Qing Yaojing. At that time, when you go to Jinla, you only need one token from the two of them, and it will be enough for you to go unimpeded. And you can get the goods just by sitting in Chang and City. Why do you have to go to Jinla? Do you think it's too easy?" Li Shimin was despised again. But Li Shimin didn't care. He asked about the specific industry plan again. That was the extinction plan. The more he talked about this plan, the more excited Li Shimin became. At the lowest price they would exchange food for poisonous salt mines and then process it a little. The first salt, which was the poisonous salt, would be sold to the Turks, Tubo and Tuyuhan. Then they would exchange the salt for food without silver. 1 caddy of salt would be 1 caddy of fine grain. In just a few decades the entire grassland would be full of big-necked people. At that time they would have no combat power. If they wanted food they would have to use resources to exchange with the Tang Dynasty. Then they would distribute all the cattle, sheep and horses on the grassland to the people of the Tang Dynasty. No one would want them? Nonsense. They were all farmers. Who didn't want to have a mule to farm? At that time, not to mention that there were many cattle and sheep on the grassland, such a big Tang Dynasty with 1 sheep per person would be distributed to them in minutes. At that time there would no longer be a sheep, a cow or a horse on the grassland. Would a people on horseback without a horse be worthy of it? And what would the Tang Dynasty pay for it? His decision was to put in a little effort, collect the goods, and then throw them to the people who were lining up to ask for them. Done. He didn't even need to carry them on his back. Who wouldn't be willing? The more Li Shimin listened, the more excited he became. In the end, his whole body trembled like a pendulum. Extinction plan. This was really King extinction plan. Moreover, the Tang Dynasty didn't even have to pay a penny, but they made a lot of money and firmly controlled all the countries in their hands. Li Shimin almost choked. Brother Zhang Feng, are you really not an immortal? Immortal? Zhang Feng, who was dizzy, laughed and said, have you ever seen any immortal? Li Shimin shook his head. That's it. No one has ever seen an immortal. How can I be an immortal? If I were an immortal, wouldn't it be great if I could turn stone into gold in one breath? Would I have to work so hard? Li Shimin blinked and didn't say anything. He knew he couldn't win. However, this plan caused him to become anxious again. He cupped his fists, staggered up from the ground and was about to slip away. But he was caught by Zhang Feng. By the way, Lao Li, I almost forgot. Why did you come to me? Did you encounter any difficulties? Chapter 154. Li Shimin was also stunned when he heard that. He rubbed his groggy head for a long time before he remembered the purpose of his visit. He personally went to the counter to take a herbal teapot and drank a mouthful of cold tea. Then he threw it to Zhang Feng and said, if you didn't mention it, I would have forgotten. I think you did it on purpose. You even saw through that? Zhang Feng took the teapot with a smile and leaned himself against the wall to drink. Sigh. When Li Shimin thought of the business, his whole spirit was refreshed. This is my family's business, so it's not good to talk about it. But I really have no choice. Say it. As a brother, I don't have any other skills, but I have a glib tongue. Li Shimin ignored Zhang Feng and seemed to be immersed in his memories. Originally there were 3 of us brothers. My father built a family business with his good friends in the Guanlong area for the sake of singing. At that time I was going to take the imperial examinations and become an official, but my father promised that as long as I helped the family work hard, he would let me be the head of the family in the future. Then your father went back on his word and let your brother be the head of the family, right? Zhang Feng asked with his eyes wide open. Li Shimin didn't say anything and nodded. Zhang Feng suddenly had a strong interest in Lao Li. Lao Li, don't tell me you're that person in the palace? *CK, your experience is so similar. Zhang Feng's words instantly alerted Li Shimin. He didn't know what was wrong with him that made him see a clue. He laughed and said vaguely, how can my identity be compared to that person? That's true. Zhang Feng smacked his lips. He would rather die than believe that this master had any connection with that person in the palace. Damn it, there was no possibility at all, okay? Let me tell you a story. Zhang Feng said faintly, speaking of which, there is still half a month before the birthday of that person in the palace. But look at how the current emperor treats him. Although your experience is similar to His Majesty's, let me tell you, even if you're just a little commoner in His Majesty, you're all the same. We're all mortals, born and raised by mothers and fathers. The difference between us and animals is that we have feelings. Although the current emperor has used some tricks, he still wholeheartedly wants what his father wants. Even if he has to run hundreds of horses to death, he will still get it for him from the ends of the earth. Li Shimin fell silent. His eyes were filled with worry. Zhang Feng patted his shoulder and said, actually, have you ever heard of this saying? The son wants to raise, but the father doesn't wait for him. Is it the father's fault for not teaching him well? If your father didn't make a promise back then, you might not have achieved what you have today, and you might not be able to see me today. You should be glad that your father didn't let you enter the big dye vat in the imperial court. But I'm already in it. Li Shimin shouted in his heart. Brother Zhang Feng. You said that the son wants to raise but the father doesn't wait for him. I'm indeed facing this problem now. My old father, because I fought for the position of the head of the family, and my brothers left the Tang dynasty one after another, so he has always hated me and doesn't like me. He's very similar to His Majesty. I also want to redeem myself. Previously, I was young and impetuous and my brothers joined forces to mess with me. How could I not resist? Zhang Feng fell silent. Was Lao Li wrong? That was right. He was the same as His Majesty. They just wanted to survive in the cracks. This might be the characteristic of the men in Guangzhou. Where the hell did this tradition come from? For a lousy reputation, to destroy the false title of the head of the family, they didn't even understand the principle of family harmony and prosperity? Did they have to fight to the death? Lao Li, actually, I have no right to ask about your family's affairs, and I don't dare to make decisions for you because every family has its own difficulties. I can only say that all of this today is your family's own fault. Listen to me first. Zhang Feng pressed Li Shimin's shoulder to shut him up and then said, I don't want to hear about your past. I think it's not as wonderful as His Majesty's. But you have to remember that there's no overnight hatred between father and son. Your original intention is for the family business. This is understandable, but please remember one thing. Admit defeat. You're a father now. Do you want your children to learn from you in the future? Li Shimin was abnormally shocked. He really hadn't thought about this matter. It's the father's fault if the son doesn't teach. He knew this sentence from Old Man Kong. But, I know you have concerns, but you must remember one thing. Think more for the future generations. Admit defeat and lower your head to your father. I know your personality and you're not that hard to talk to. Otherwise, do you think I, Zhang Feng, am willing to be friends with anyone? If that's the case, then right now the streets are filled with my brothers and friends. Please, Brother Zhang Feng, enlighten me. My father's birthday is in a few days. I'm also thinking about how to resolve the conflict between us at this time, but I have no way, so it's like this. How is there no way? Zhang Feng smiled mysteriously and pointed at his head. Think carefully. Do you have a way to resolve your father and son relationship? Chapter 155. What? If I want, will I expose all my dirty linen to you? Li Shimin shook his head speechlessly. Zhang Feng wanted to slap Li Shimin's head hard to see if he was a blockhead. However, he reached out his hand and stopped in the end. He couldn't reach it and he didn't have the strength. He staggered and fell to the floor. The teacup in his hand was thrown into Li Shimin's arms. In an instant he looked like he had wet his pants. Li Shimin frowned at the sight. Zhang Feng acted as if nothing had happened and simply laid on the floor. The cold floor made him feel a little less drunk. At this moment he finally understood. Why did those drunkards prefer to sleep on the floor and the curb instead of sleeping on a bed when they were drunk? It was so damn comfortable. You're a blockhead. To think that I've told you so much before. You didn't listen to me at all. Let me ask you. Why is your father unhappy with you? Are you the one who snatched the position of the head of the family? Wrong. He promised to give it to you, but you snatched it from him. This is his fault. If you can't do it, don't agree. But why can't he get along with you? Is it because I drove my brothers away? Li Shimin asked hurriedly. No. Zhang Feng stamped on the floor randomly. This is all because of one original intention, which is to revitalize the family business. No matter how you become the head of the family, your father hopes that you can lead the family to glory and glory. Let me ask you, are you bringing glory to your ancestors now? Li Shimin was silent. He was deep in thought. Although your family business is nothing in my opinion, if you want to resolve the conflict between you and your father, let me ask you something. Before you came here, were you angry with your father? Yes, because of the grain storage. That's it. Since he's willing to talk to you about business matters, it means that the conflict between you two can be resolved. As long as he doesn't care what I do, I'll just give him a cold shoulder. Zhang Feng was extremely thirsty. He pointed at his mouth. Li Shimin simply stuffed the spout into Zhang Feng's mouth. Li Shimin was shocked. Imperial father didn't ignore me. Although he was in the depths of the harem, he still cared about the people's livelihood. Then, if I were to make all my plans. I got it. Brother, do you mean that if we tell him all our plans and prove that we are working hard for the sake of the family, our conflict will be resolved? If you don't want your father to be angered to death by you at his birthday, then go ahead and say it. Zhang Feng was speechless. I said you have a pig's brain and you really do have a pig's brain. Where is your business sense? It's really hard for me to imagine how big your business is. How can you ask such a stupid question? Li Shimin was instantly ignited. Alas, Damn you, is this how you talk to your old brother? Do you look down on your old brother so much? I'm already having a headache, so why don't you come up with an idea? Are you insulting me? Hey, it seems that it's a good thing that you can lose your temper. Zhang Feng smiled embarrassedly. Before this matter is confirmed and the contract is signed with Zhenla, as well as the matter regarding Tufan, we have to wait until the contract is signed. Until the deed is done, don't tell anyone. Otherwise, you can go find a crooked tree. What for? Li Shimin was confused. This crooked tree, however, Li Shimin instantly understood. He was so angry that he blew his beard and glared. However, Zhang Feng didn't wait for him to lose his temper and said, "From the way Zhenla's people came today, I can see that this is a good day. For the birthday of the person in the palace, you have to seize the time and try to drag the emperor or Zhangsun Wuji down in these 2 days, no matter the cost. In this way you can sign the contract. It's best if the contract is signed by Tubo, Tuyuhun, and Jinla. I'm sure that the main reason why Tubo and Tuyuhun are here is because of this." "Are you so sure?" "I'm so sure." Zhang Feng was certain. This matter has been left unchecked for a long time. I think it's already June. Logically speaking, they should be freaking anxious, but they haven't done anything. That means they're waiting for the drought in Longyu Dao. Li Shimin was also shocked. He thought carefully for a while. In his mind, the list of tributes presented by Tubo and Tuyuhun's envoys appeared. He didn't notice it before, but now that he thought about it carefully, it was really more sumptuous than before. Could it be that what Zhang Feng said was true? This time they wanted to use the birthday of the retired emperor to confirm this matter? How confident are you? Li Shimin grabbed Zhang Feng, who was drinking water, and asked. 80%. If the retired emperor doesn't cause trouble. It was a sure thing. Although Zhang Feng said it was 80%, it was definitely 100%. Because with Zhang Feng's temper, he would never smooth things over. He would always leave a safe place for himself. Li Shimin's eyes flashed a trace of ruthlessness. It seems that Chang and is going to have a big change in this birthday. Chapter 156. Li Shimin was a little scared. But he was also looking forward to it. He was afraid that if something went wrong during the birthday celebration, he would have to bear the infamy. The infamy of being a murderer and usurping the throne really made him feel uncomfortable. If he could solve it during the birthday celebration, that would be great. But could this matter be as good as he thought? No. There were always some people who liked to see him fall and even hoped that he would fall. Li Shimin was very clear about this. Thinking of this, Li Shimin could not help but clench his fists. This incident, everything was gathered at the birthday celebration, which also made Li Shimin feel deeply pressured this time. If he could overcome it, then the overall luck of the Tang dynasty would skyrocket. However, if something were to go wrong, he would be plunged into an irrecoverable trouble. The most important thing was that these plans could not be known to anyone. At this time, a trace of murderous intent flickered in Li Shimin's eyes. "Brother Zhang Feng, tell me, I Lao Li also know about this matter. Everything seems to be very colorful, but it is also very dangerous. If something goes wrong, then the birthday celebration of that person in the palace will be the day that I, Lao Li, will be exterminated. Just tell me how I should deal with this matter, and also solve the conflict between my father and me." Zhang Feng sobered up a little. "Actually, this matter still depends on one person." "Who?" "Zhangsun Wuji." "Lao Li, don't you know that this matter has actually been in our plan from the beginning?" "Plan? There was a plan from the beginning?" Li Shimin immediately became spirited and quickly asked, "I'd like to hear the details. Regarding this matter, you've always stood on your own side, but you've forgotten to look at the overall situation. Even until my death, I've been mentioning Zhangsun Wuji. Could it be that you don't understand why I must have you go find Zhangsun Wuji?" A buzzing sound was heard. Li Shimin had thought through all his problems. Why did Zhang Feng keep saying that the people should not fight with the officials? Why did he keep stressing that they had to take a small share and let Zhangsun Wuji and the royal family take the majority? Why did he keep emphasizing it? Now he finally understood. Zhang Feng had been plotting all along. It was a path where he could advance and sweep everything before him, and if he retreated, he could retreat safely. Although he was drunk now. However, his words still shocked Li Shimin. He had thought of all the possibilities. What was Zhang Feng thinking? How did he manage to strategize? Could it be that he had been plotting and weaving a net ever since the first time he fell in love with Longyu Dao? He was aghast. He also wanted such an ability. Although he and Zhang Feng were now brothers, he also knew that Zhang Feng was teaching him. He was teaching him everything. During this period of time, Zhang Feng was like a mentor, opening many windows for Li Shimin. However, he was a little hesitant. He fell into Zhang Feng's flowery words and lost his ability to strategize. He also ignored Zhang Feng's words. Zhang Feng was teaching him how to rule a country. Li Shimin looked at Zhang Feng, who was leaning against the wall in a daze. He wanted to ask, but in the end he could not say anything. He struggled to help Zhang Feng up, put together 2 or 3 long stools and laid him flat on it. At this moment, Zhang Feng woke up. Instead of saying that he was awake, he had not slept all this time. Lao Li, we are brothers, aren't we? Your business is our business. Actually, from the moment I saw your face when you came in, I knew that you were lost. Remember this, the way of business is the way of the wolf. I believe you know about the animal called the wolf, right? Think of yourself as a wolf. Although you are in the middle of a storm, you still have to control the overall situation. This is very important. This is very important for the continuation of the whole tribe. You have forgotten what it looks like. I know. Li Shimin now felt like he had returned to the time when he was a teenager studying. He humbly remembered these 2 words. The way of the wolf. Come on. I'm very sleepy, so you should go back quickly. Don't let your wife wait too long. On the day of your father's birthday, remember to send a waiter to my shop. I'll personally prepare a table of delicacies that you've never tasted before. Let me tell you another thing. There is no problem that cannot be solved with a meal. If it can't be solved, then 2 meals. The old man is now enjoying his life in peace. This meal is very important. No matter how big the conflict is, I guarantee that your father will call you brother after drinking 3 jars of good wine. Before he finished speaking, Zhang Feng fell into a deep sleep. Li Shimin looked at the sleeping Zhang Feng and then looked outside. Unknowingly, the outside was already brightly lit, and an oil lamp was lit in the corner of the restaurant. It must be Wei Shiyu's doing, right? He looked at Zhang Feng again, took off his coat and put it on him. Then he said thank you and quietly closed the door and left. As soon as he left the restaurant, he saw Wei Shiyu's face as if he had seen an immortal. Li Shimin glanced at him, his voice extremely cold. You saw it all? I saw it. Forget it. Chapter 157. In the Daming Palace. At this time, Empress Zhangsun was sitting in the imperial study, looking very anxious. Zhangsun Wuji, Wei Zheng, and the others were also waiting for Li Shimin anxiously. Originally, they came to report the news brought back by the spies in Chang and city and all the prefectures. But they learned that Huang Degue went to the retired emperor to complain, which made the already tense atmosphere even more tense. It was going to be Li Yuan's birthday soon. Now there was such a big mess. What should they do? The temperature in the evening was obviously lower, but everyone's faces were still full of sweat, and they didn't dare to wipe it off. Although Empress Zhangsun was sitting there with a calm face and reading the emperor's poetry collection, everyone knew that the empress was the most terrible at this time. What time is it, Xiaohuan? After a long time, Empress Zhangsun asked lightly. Her personal maid hurried to the door and looked for a while, and then reported with trepidation, Your Highness, it's the evening now. Still no news of His Majesty? Your Highness, my son Shiyu sent a letter. His Majesty is drunk. Maybe he's on his way back. Wei Zheng was a little guilty, but he still spoke frankly. A person who can control the whole situation and make it so watertight, who also has such a novel salt-making skill, and who can make such good wine and food. Your Excellency Wei, tell me, what do you think of Zhang Feng? This? Wei Zheng was a little confused about the Empress's intention. He exchanged glances with the others and then said truthfully. Your Highness, we can't catch up with Zhang Feng's knowledge. Moreover, Minister Du Fang Shangshu, and Shang Shangshu have all talked about his knowledge. This person's knowledge is basically the best of 100 schools of thought. This old subject was fortunate enough to witness his talent. Although he kept talking about business matters, it seems that this lad has a bright future in the business world. But I heard that this person doesn't like money or these things. Why are there so many people like him? Is he really willing to stay in a rundown tavern? Seeing that everyone was nervous, Empress Zhangsun smiled faintly. This is not the imperial court. This concubine is also a little curious about this child, that's all. Everyone, there is no need to be reserved. After all, His Majesty wants the crown prince to learn the way of ruling the country from him. This concubine is his mother, so I have to know about the crown prince's teacher. Hearing this, everyone could not help but heave a deep sigh of relief. In an instant, everyone started talking. Nyang, I old Qing know a little. Brother Zhang Feng. Although he's just a small tavern shopkeeper, his ability to command is something that I can't catch up to. He is a piece of military material. Yes, an unpolished jade. Old black. When did you reserve him? This old man thinks that his talent and knowledge, as well as his analysis of the current situation, are enough to look down on the world. Our Tang dynasty's imperial court urgently needs the injection of such fresh blood. Only in this way can the imperial court, which is like a pool of stagnant water, have a trace of vitality. If I may be so bold as to ask, what? I haven't made a decision yet. Are you all in a hurry to rope him in? Just as Wei Zheng was about to kneel down and ask the empress for permission, Li Shimin's voice suddenly sounded behind everyone. Everyone was so scared that they hurriedly knelt down to welcome him. Li Shimin's face was full of unhappiness. He glared at Wei Zheng and the others. Under the worried eyes of Empress Zhang's son, he sat down on the dragon throne. Li Shimin was very surprised. Wei Zheng and Zhang Feng had only met 2 or 3 times. How could such an upright and plain-spoken person like him be willing to lower his noble head and humbly beg the empress for Zhang Feng's sake? How rare. This was truly a rare sight. From this, it could be seen that Zhang Feng's charm was very strong. I know that all of you are thinking of the Tang dynasty, but let's talk about this later. I have an extremely important matter to discuss now. Empress Zhang's son heard this. She stood up and said, "Your Majesty, I'll take my leave first." As the empress left, everyone's eyes were burning. Everyone knew why the emperor left the palace this time. They couldn't tell whether the emperor had solved this matter or not, but from his words they could tell that he was in control of the whole situation. Everyone couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. "Your Majesty, have you found a way to solve the problem with the retired emperor?" "Let's not talk about this first. There's another matter which is more important than this. If it goes well, the Tang dynasty will immediately enter a prosperous era. If it fails, the Tang dynasty will face a disaster." "What? A disaster?" Everyone was shocked. Was it really so serious? What was it? Did the Turks march southward? No. I just received the news that Longyu Road didn't receive any sign of the Turks' army. There was no one else except for the group of envoys who came to the capital. Everyone was anxious, but they couldn't figure out what was going on. However, Li Shimin heaved a long sigh. "I saw the crown prince and princess of Jinla entering a tavern today." Chapter 158. Jinla? Isn't that the small country on the border in the south? "Your Majesty, the Jinla diplomatic group is in Honglu Temple today. The envoys from other countries are basically in Honglu Temple, accompanied by Minister Yan Zhen of Honglu Temple. We didn't find the Jinla diplomatic group going out." "No." As Fang Xuanling's voice fell, Du Ruhui's eyes darkened. "Today, when this old subject received the imperial order to receive the foreign envoys, I found that they brought many people of the same generation. I heard that they wanted to experience the glory of the Tang dynasty, so this old subject let them out of the palace as usual." The more Du Ruhui spoke, the paler his face became. The tavern was a secret in everyone's heart. It was actually discovered by the Zhenla people, and it was even seen by the emperor. This was serious. Du Ruhui was ready to punish, but Li Shimin waved his hand indifferently. "This matter is not your responsibility. I was careless. I also didn't expect them to sneak into the tavern, but I found something interesting." Speaking of this, Li Shimin actually smiled slightly. "Can you guess how miserable the crown prince and princess of Jinla were when they came out? Zhang Feng actually robbed them clean." "What?" Wei Zheng was shocked. If this matter alarmed the Jinla diplomatic group, the tavern was bound to be exposed. But Li Shimin was still very indifferent. He waved his hand and said, "I was also worried before, but when I finally entered the tavern, I found that this kid actually liked that Princess Jinla." Everyone was stunned when they heard this. Zhang Feng liked that kind of person? Oh my god. This taste? Qing Yaojin smacked his lips. "Brother Zhang Feng, you should have said so earlier. If he likes this kind of person, wouldn't it be better if I bought hundreds of huji and sent them to him?" Li Shimin glared at him. "I was also wrong about this matter. Maybe I was thinking too much?" Zhang Feng actually blushed for the first time. Ha. Li Shimin wanted to laugh when he thought of Zhang Feng's embarrassed look. Everyone was even more confused, but they felt that it was awesome. She wondered if she should send some women to Zhang Feng to satisfy his cravings. Li Shimin shook his head. "Let's not talk about this for now. Actually, these are all my guesses. Don't try to use them to make up stories about him. However, I learned of 2 important things today. If he hadn't gotten drunk with Prince Jinla, and if I hadn't poured him a jar of wine and made him drunk, I wouldn't have known that he knew so much. At that time when I heard about this, I was so shocked that I broke out in cold sweat." Everyone was even more confused. What kind of major event was this? It actually made the emperor, who was always calm and collected, break out in a cold sweat? Your Majesty, are you saying that this matter is related to Zhenla? Zhang Sun Wuji asked softly. Yes. This matter is indeed related to Zhenla. Brother Zhang Feng had a few ideas. He squeezed out all the valuable items from the crown prince and the princess. When the two of them left, they still kept the calligraphy that Zhang Feng gave them as if they were treasures. I knew that something big was going to happen. Sure enough, Zhang Feng has another big plan. Zhenla is in the sea and is surrounded by water on all sides. There are many waterways and, correspondingly, there are also many aquatic products. Let's not talk about these. These are all trivial matters. Also, he said that the spices in that place were used by the aboriginals as firewood after some minor adjustments. These are all important points. The important point is, he found a salt mine in Zhenla. Li Shimin briefly said what he knew in one breath. Although everyone was dumbfounded, they were still waiting for the emperor to speak. Although they wanted to ask, they didn't dare to interrupt the emperor's mood. They had seen the emperor's gloomy face earlier today. Now that he was in a good mood, no one dared to ruin it. Seeing that no one asked, Li Shimin felt a little bored. He picked up Empress Jiangxuan's teacup and drank a mouthful. Do you know how big the salt mine is? We are stupid and don't know. Everyone said in unison. Li Shimin shook his head and didn't blame them. One must know that when he heard about it, he almost fainted from shock. Thinking of this, Li Shimin imitated Zhang Feng. His expression was dignified, but he waved his hand majestically and said, "Come on, give me a seat. I'm afraid that you will faint when you hear about this, so be prepared." Everyone was dumbfounded. Wasn't it just a salt mine? Was there a need for this? Although everyone cursed in their hearts, they still thanked him and sat down. At this time, Li Shimin said mysteriously, "Fang Xianling, tell me about the landscape of Zhenla." Your Majesty, according to the information we got, Zhenla is surrounded by water on 3 sides. There are a total of 21 cities with a total population of about 300,000 people. They are basically distributed in the north, east, and west of Zhenla. As for the south, I heard that it's a barren land where birds and beasts are extinct. Yes. That's the place where birds and beasts are extinct. Minister Fang, how big is that place? Fang Xianling seemed to have thought of something and hurriedly said, "It's almost twice the size of Chang'an." Twice the size. Li Shimin was secretly surprised. However, he was more convinced of Zhang Feng's words. That place is where the salt mine is located. Zhang Feng said that the salt there is enough for the 5 million families of the Tang Dynasty to use for 500 years. Can you guess what price Zhang Feng paid to get it? A cart of salt and 10 caddies of grain. Dong. Chapter 159. The sound of people falling to the ground was within Li Shimin's expectation. The white jade tablets in everyone's hands and even Qing Yaojin fell to the ground. As for those who didn't fall, their faces were pale, and their bodies were trembling. 500 years. What was the effect? Millions of families. 500 years? Wei Zheng and the others couldn't help but groan. Once upon a time they didn't dare to ask for that. They were only willing to use a little bit of poisonous salt on important days. But one day the people of the entire Tang Dynasty could use it in their sleep? They thought they were dreaming. Li Shimin was the same. Don't worry about it. When I first learned about this matter, I was also like this. Now you all know that Zhang Feng, you and I have mastered the art of making salt. What is this? This is the lifeline of the Tang Dynasty. We only need to use a little method to get countless things that others think are waste. Then we can refine them a little and make them into non-toxic and harmless fine salt. What do you think of this business? Your Majesty, there is so much salt, and the art of making salt is not a profound secret art. Moreover, it is so far away. If someone is interested, they can find out about it after a little inquiry. What if Zhenla or other countries steal it? What do you think? Wei Jing asked the doubt in his heart. Li Shimin waved his hand. I also asked about this matter, but Zhang Feng only said one sentence. Spread the wealth. The salt collected can't be used. But the amount of salt we can make is not something that anyone can control. We get the first batch of salt and sell it to other countries. Then we quietly refine the salt and sell it to ourselves. Although there are some differences in the color, after grinding it will be snow white, right? No matter who it is, they won't be able to see the difference. Only we know that it is actually poisonous salt. What do you think of this plan? Li Shimin narrowed his eyes and asked. Vicious. Your Majesty, everyone knows that poisonous salt can't be used. If anyone eats it for more than a year, even a strong man won't be able to lift a stone. Although the refined salt doesn't have that much poison, it's still harmful. This If someone were to find out about such a vicious plan, the consequences would be unimaginable. No way. Li Shimin waved his hand confidently. I've asked Zhang Feng about this matter. He said that the first dish of salt is fine. At most, after eating it for 10 or 20 years, one will develop a neck disease. Furthermore, at that time, there will be problems with one's constitution. Everyone was shocked. It would take 10 to 20 years for the problem to be discovered. They didn't dare to think about it. He had also thought things through. With Li Shimin's narration, everyone's eyes couldn't help but light up. It seemed that Li Shimin was getting drunk. Or perhaps he was a little tired. He waved his hand and asked Wei Shuyu to come forward. I'm a little tired. You can ask Wei Shuyu about the details. We'll settle the details tomorrow morning. Tomorrow we'll settle this matter and sign the contract for him. What do you think? Everyone looked at each other, then stood up and respectfully sent off Li Shimin. Then Qing Yaojin grabbed Wei Shuyu's Mingguang armor and asked, Boy, tell us, what did His Majesty and Zhang Feng talk about? If you don't behave, Lao Tzu will beat you to death. Wei Shuyu cried. She looked at Wei Zheng with pleading eyes. Wei Zheng pretended not to see. He said in a low voice, Old Qing, let's not scare the child. What if the child is frightened? Lao Tzu will fight it out with you. When Qing Yaojin heard this, his face immediately turned pale. He withdrew his hand embarrassedly, sat on the stool and waited with his ears pricked up. With Wei Zheng's protection, Wei Shuyu became bolder. She gave a fist salute and said, Uncles, I followed His Majesty to the small tavern today and eavesdropped a little at the door. Zhang Feng's plan? Under the angry stares of the crowd, Wei Shuyu hurriedly stopped showing off. She shrank her neck and said, He means to use these things to exchange for grain. 1 caddy of fine grain and 1 caddy of salt. F***CK. Did Brother Zhang Feng come up with this plan? What if there's no grain? For example, what about the Turks? Fang Xianling and Du Ruhui's white beards were trembling. They asked hurriedly. Zhang Feng didn't say anything about the Turks, but I think he means to exchange cattle and sheep. Moreover, he said that the horses will only be exchanged for grain, not salt. Hearing this, everyone cursed in unison. F***CK. I knew it. This bastard's plan is vicious. Using horses to exchange for salt. And it's this kind of salt. Haha, if Shelly and Tilly know about this, I really want to see their expressions. They're a race on horseback. Without horses, what can they use to fight the Tang Dynasty? This is a good plan. But in the end, everyone understood. Because this plan was mentioned by Zhang Feng from the beginning. But they didn't expect that Zhang Feng wouldn't stop until the Turks were dead. They wanted to know how the Turks offended Zhang Feng to make him hate them so much. But let's not talk about Zhang Feng. Which one of them didn't hate the Turks? Under Wei Shuyu's baffled gaze, everyone burst into laughter for a while. Then everyone fell silent. Wei Jing sent Wei Shuyu away with a solemn expression and said, Everyone, this matter is settled? It's settled. Let's do it. The bold ones are stuffed to death and the timid ones are starved to death. This contract is signed. Chapter 160. Zhang Feng was very tired. Really tired. He had slept on the floor of the tavern for the whole night. At this moment, with one hand on the wall and the other on his waist, he slowly lay down on the recliner and felt a little better. Damn Lao Li, don't you know how to put me on the recliner? Looking at the iron wine pot under his waist, Zhang Feng felt a toothache. He would never get drunk again. Damn it, it was too lonely to be alone. Zhang Feng supported his waist with difficulty, dragged the recliner and slowly opened the door of the tavern. He hung a sign on the door saying that the tavern was temporarily closed. Then he groaned and lay down under the crooked tree, going back to sleep. Lao Li should have used his connections to go to Honglu Temple by now, right? If this matter succeeds, then Lao Tzu's plan will succeed. Wulin, is there a Wulin? Last night, even though he had gotten drunk, he still wanted to drink with her. But the guy on the roof beam, he saw it with his own eyes. He could climb up the roof beam without making a sound and even point a crossbow at him. It seemed that Lao Li's family was also very deep. Zhang Feng had only seen people with such superb climbing skills on TV and in novels. Wuxia. Could it be that there were also Wulin people in this world? There was also Jianghu? Then he had to think about it carefully. When the time came, would he go to the end of the world with his sword or would he give up his power to the world? Just as Zhang Feng was thinking about whether there was a Wulin in this world, and whether he should go to the end of the world with his sword. The sun was already shining on the paper window of Chang and city. With the sound of 3 gongs, the bustle of Chang and began. The market is open. The imperial palace. The morning court session ended in a hurry. In Taiji Palace, Li Shimin hurriedly summoned Wei Zheng and the others. How did the discussion last night go? Do you think this contract can be signed? As Li Shimin's voice fell, everyone in the hall couldn't wait to talk about it. Your Majesty, let me tell you. As for this matter, we need to endure it with Zhenla. At the very least, we have to wait until they can't wait any longer. No? Old man Fong, this matter can't be delayed any longer. If this drags on, everything will be over. The retired emperor's birthday is coming soon. If we can perfectly resolve this matter before the birthday, wouldn't the conflict between the emperor and the retired emperor be completely resolved? That's inappropriate. Fong Xianling waved his hand. He cupped his hands and said, Your Majesty, I thought about it last night and felt that there is something missing in this matter. We still haven't received confirmation from Tubo. If we agree to Zhenla first, what if Tubo survives the drought? Li Shimin knew that there were objections. He smiled faintly and said, Actually, we have also thought about this matter. I didn't sleep at all last night, but I believe that Prime Minister Wei can give everyone a satisfactory answer. He didn't believe that Wei Zheng didn't ask about Wei Shiyu last night. Then he wouldn't be Wei Zheng. Hearing this, Wei Zheng stroked his beard. Unlike the excitement of the others, he was extremely calm now. I think this matter is feasible. Last night, my son also told me in detail about the conversation between Your Majesty and brother Zhang Feng. To be honest, I also felt that there was something missing in the middle. As Duke Xing said, there was an important link missing. However, after thinking about it last night, I went to the secretarial office to check the list of tributes from Tubo and other countries this morning. Then I understood. This time, Tubo's tributes are dozens of times more abundant than before. I think they want to reduce the cost of this matter to the lowest during this birthday, and then get the manufacturing method of the water wheel at the lowest price. Hearing this, everyone was shocked. Li Shimin already knew about this. He waved his hand indifferently. Prime Minister Wei is right about this matter. Therefore, I have decided to summon Prince Zhenla to Taiji Palace later. What do you all think? Everyone's doubts were cleared. Now who dared to object? All of them bowed. Your Majesty, congratulations. Ha ha ha. Someone come, fax Prince Zhenla for an audience. You all also come with me to see this rare grand scene. Li Shimin was in a very good mood. Relatively speaking, he was still a little excited. Originally, these matters were supposed to be handled by the Crown Prince or the Supreme Court. However, this time, because of the importance of this matter, Li Shimin didn't announce it. Instead, he sent someone to inform the Taichung Temple, the Supreme Court, the Guanglu Temple, and the people of the 3 provinces and 6 ministries. A moment later, the officials of the Honglu Temple, the Supreme Court, and the Taichung Temple personally explained the identity of Zhenla. Then, the small yellow door hurriedly led the nervous Shiva into Taiji Palace. Along the way, Shiva's eyes stared straight at the heel of the small yellow door in front of him. He didn't even dare to look around. He didn't know the purpose of this summons, but he could guess a little. However, it was also because of this that Zhang Feng's identity became even more mysterious. After entering Taiji Palace, after passing through 3 large doors and countless crescent-shaped doorways, Shiva finally stopped in front of a magnificent house. The small yellow door lightly knocked on the door and said, Your Majesty, Prince Zhenla Lamar Shiva, requests an audience. Chapter 161. In the Imperial Study of Taiji Palace. How mysterious was it to Shiva and the entire Zhenla before? But now he was about to enter this palace. At this time Shiva was a little nervous. Very nervous. His palms couldn't help sweating. The door was finally opened from the inside. Shiva slowly walked into the hall with a nervous heart that felt like it was going to jump out of his chest. The hall was not big, but it was no less luxurious than the palace of Zhenla. There was at least one imperial study here, which was the study of the Tang emperors. If this place was already so magnificent, what would the hall be like? Shiva couldn't help but quietly raise his head and quickly glance at the hall. The hall was made of mahogany and gold-rimmed phoebe. The room was full of calligraphy and paintings that he couldn't understand. Presumably, these were all extremely precious paintings of the Tang Dynasty? There were 5 officials sitting on both sides of the hall. Behind a table covered in yellow brocade sat a middle-aged man in yellow robes. He was looking at Shiva with a dignified expression. The moment Shiva glanced at him, he felt as if he had been seen through by that person. Was this the emperor of the Tang Dynasty? This momentum, there was no time to think. Shiva entered the door and hurriedly kowtowed. Lama Shiva, the son of Lama Zoya, the king of Zhenla, pays his respects to His Majesty the Tang emperors. Rise and take a seat. Li Shimon's voice was very faint. Shiva couldn't hear any other meaning from it. But he had a feeling. This summons seemed to have something to do with the tavern. Could it be that the conversation between him and Master Zhang was overheard by the Tang Emperor? Or, the person Master Zhang was talking about was His Majesty the Tang Emperor's? Then who was Master Zhang? What kind of ability did he have? A little eunuch brought in a chair and placed it next to Qing Yaojin. Shiva didn't dare to disobey. He could only sit beside the bearded Qing Yaojin and wait quietly. Seeing this, Li Shimon chuckled and said, "Your Highness, this is your first time in the Tang Dynasty. You don't have to be so cautious. I'm not a man-eating tiger, so relax." Shiva gave his thanks. Seeing him like this, Li Shimon didn't intend to say anything more and directly said, "Last night I heard an interesting thing. Zhenla seems to have a lot of treasures. But why is it that in the letter I received from your father, he said that you, Zhenla, need the assistance of my Tang Dynasty? What does that mean? Was really Master Zhang? What kind of charm did Master Zhang have? Even the Emperor knows so much about it? Could it be? Was it the legendary Chamberlain of Imperial Insignia of Great Tang?" Shiva was aghast. He hurriedly said, "Your Majesty the Tang Emperors. Please listen to the details of this matter." He didn't intend to hide it anymore, since the Emperor knew he was hiding it. If he angered the Emperor, Zhenla wouldn't be able to survive this winter. Now, because of the drought in Tubo, Zhenla had been seriously affected. At this time, most of the people could only rely on fish in the sea and wild vegetables in the mountains to fill their stomachs. If they delayed any longer, winter would come and Zhenla would be exterminated. Your Majesty, please understand. Because of the drought in Tubo, Zhenla often looted the rich land of our country. Now, most of our people can only rely on wild vegetables and fish to fill their stomachs. Your Majesty, the Tang Emperors, please have mercy on us." Li Shimon smiled. If he hadn't gone to Zhang Feng yesterday and learned so much, he would have waved his hand and given a lot of money and food. "I know about this matter. Do you have anything to say about what happened yesterday?" "Your Majesty, please understand. Yesterday, Sister Wang and I went to Chang and City to take a look at the magnificent scenery of Chang and City. However, we inadvertently saw the front door of a small tavern. A handsome man was sitting in a strange chair and swaying. In front of him was a flagon that seemed to be made of iron. Wasn't it comfortable? Therefore, Sister Wang and I wanted to find out more about it. Then we saw Master Zhang." Hearing this, Wei Zheng and the others had a strange look on their faces. Seemed to be made of iron? What was that? Why didn't Brother Zhang Feng take it out? But among these people, only Zhang Sun Wuji touched his nose and was calm. Li Shimon glanced at him and understood. He asked, "I've heard about the place you mentioned, but don't you want to talk about the treasure mountain?" Shiva was sweating profusely. "Your Majesty, please allow this humble subject to explain in detail." This humble subject didn't know about this before, but after Master Zhang's advice yesterday, this humble subject was enlightened. However, although these things are good, they are meaningless to our people. What we need is food. Wei Jing narrowed his eyes and interrupted Shiva's words very mysteriously. He asked, "Your Majesty, you know the details. Your Majesty, what you want to know is, how are you going to deal with this matter?" How to deal with it? Did Shiva have a choice now? Last night, he thought that the person Master Zhang introduced might be a small businessman. But he didn't know that the person he introduced was the Emperor of the Tang Dynasty. Didn't he come here to see the Emperor and then solve the famine problem? So what choice did he have now? Shiva prostrated himself excitedly and said, "Your Majesty, please establish an eternal trade with Zhenla and save our people." Chapter 162. What else could Shiva ask for? Last night, because of this matter, he didn't sleep at all. He discussed with Zhenla's delegation for the whole night, but in the end they all hesitated. Because if it was an ordinary businessman, how could he have such a great method to solve the crisis in such a short time? And to ensure Zhenla's safety? But now he only wanted to give everything that Master Zhang said yesterday to the Tang Dynasty. He only wanted to let the people live a good life and be free from Tubo's bullying. Li Shimon, Wei Zheng and the others looked at each other and smiled. It seemed that Brother Zhang Feng had arranged everything well. Li Shimon couldn't help but wave his hand and say, "This matter, just do as you and Brother Zhang Feng said. Someone will discuss the details with you later, but I want a guarantee. Can you make the decision?" He was most afraid of being deceived. He wasn't afraid of Zhang Feng, but he was afraid that a little crown prince would make a decision on his own. If King Zhenla didn't recognize the document of the Tang Dynasty when he returned, it would be a little troublesome. Although it was easy to send troops to attack, it would lose Li Shimon's dignity as an emperor. That was why Li Shimin asked. Shiva hurriedly swore, Your Majesty, please rest assured. The goods you mentioned are useless if they can't be sold. Since His Majesty likes them, I believe that my father will definitely agree to this. Furthermore, before I came here, Father warned me that I must meet His Majesty and save Jinla. However, those stubborn rocks are everywhere in Jinla, especially the poisonous salt. That is something that has caused my Jinla a headache for a long time. Now that the Tang Dynasty needs it, how can I refuse? In that case, when the retired emperor's birthday is over, you can go back and bring back King Jinla's handwritten document. Then I'll agree to this matter. Li Shimin waved his hand. This matter was finally settled. Although it was a bit of bullying, it could make money. What he lacked most now was money. Although it was a little vulgar. However, money was needed everywhere in the Tang Dynasty, and he was already struggling to make ends meet. If it weren't for the fact that he sold the water wheel blueprint for a little bit of money, it would still be a huge expense. Just as Li Shimin was about to leave, Shiwa hurriedly said, Your Majesty, I believe that there is no need to wait until the end of the birthday celebration. Last night, I have already ordered someone to send a message back to Jinla. I believe that before the birthday celebration, Father's handwritten letter will definitely arrive in Chang'an. Alright. That's great. Since that's the case, to express our sincerity, my Tang Dynasty will immediately send a caravan to Jinla. If this goes smoothly, I will sign a 100-year trade agreement with Jinla. How about it? Thank you, Your Majesty. Shiva hurriedly bowed. Li Shimin waved his hand and Shiva left in a hurry. A moment later, Li Shimin asked with a serious voice, My dear ministers, what do you think of our business relationship with Jinla? I think it's feasible. If the problem of salt is solved, it will be an unprecedented feat for our Tang Dynasty. Congratulations to Your Majesty. Congratulations to the Tang Dynasty. Everyone cheered in unison. But then Du Ruhui and Zhang Sun Wuji looked at each other and said, Your Majesty, although the matter with Jinla has basically been settled, once the trade agreement starts, the matter of money? I'm afraid that money is a big problem, but I think it should be enough for the time being. Moreover, this matter will be carried out in Chang'an, and it will definitely attract Tubo's attention. At that time they won't dare to wait and see any more. At that time we can sit back and relax. However, the prerequisite is that before that, we have to shoulder the burden ourselves. This old official is a little worried. Why don't this old official go and ask Brother Zhang Feng? Du Ruhui and Zhang Sun Wuji said. When Zhang Sun Wuji mentioned Zhang Feng, Li Shimin couldn't help but ask playfully, Zhao Guogong, what does Brother Zhang Feng's pot look like? Have you seen it before? No. What pot? I don't know. Zhang Sun Wuji played dumb in a very bored manner, and this caused everyone to twitch their lips. They wondered if they should go to Zhang Feng's tavern next time to find a treasure. After everyone left, Empress Zhang Sun came out from the back door of the screen. She looked at Li Shimin and asked worriedly, Second brother, isn't this a little inappropriate? Although I don't know much about state affairs, this matter is still unknown. Is it really as magical as Zhang Feng said? Are you so sure? Guanyin maid, do you think I still have a way out? Now, money is needed everywhere in the Tang Dynasty, whether it's the military expenses at the border or other aspects. This salt is extraordinary. If I don't have it in my hands, I won't be at ease. What's more, Jinla has a huge amount of salt. Haven't I mastered the art of making salt now? Then think about it. After this year and next year, the Tang Dynasty will really enter an era that I dare not imagine. Isn't this what we want? Isn't this what all the people in the world want? Empress Zhang Sun didn't say anything. Looking at Li Shimin's back, which was no longer tall and straight, she felt sad and couldn't help crying. Second brother, I understand. Chapter 163. Zhang Feng was very relaxed. During this period of time, Lao Li seemed to be very busy with Zhen La's matter. He was so busy that he didn't even pass on the news. But where was Chang'an City? It was right under the emperor's feet. Even the slightest movement of the grass in the wind would be closely watched. These simple people from Guangzhou were scared. They had enough of the precarious life and were tired of war. Therefore, the news that the imperial court had signed a trade agreement with Jinla spread throughout Chang'an City as if it had grown wings. Zhang Feng, even if he didn't leave the tavern, he could still hear all the so-called gossip from the mouths of the children squatting at the entrance of the tavern. Looks like old Li's ability to get things done is not bad. He really knows how to get the Shangguan family involved. Not bad, he has a bright future. Zhang Feng sipped a mouthful of wine happily and fanned himself. Beside him, there were 3 dirty half-grown children who were rubbing his shoulders or rocking the recliner. That was a very comfortable life. As long as he was willing, he only needed to pay a copper coin for these children to massage his shoulders for a day until they dislocated his shoulders. Brother Zhang Feng. Brother Zhang Feng. I have the latest news. The latest news from the Imperial Palace. At this moment, a topless child with snot bubbles on his nose ran over excitedly. A pair of straw sandals that couldn't be any worse had already been flung off to God knows where while running, and the straw rope of the other straw sandal had been dragged out for half a meter. Zhang Feng was interested. He squinted and asked, "Dog, what did you ask? If you really get the answer, I will not only give you 10 copper coins, but also give you an old piece of clothing." Hearing this, the dog was so excited that he was about to kneel down and kowtow. Zhang Feng kicked him and scolded jokingly, "Come on, don't do this. A man must remember that you can kneel to heaven and earth and your parents, but you must never bend your knees easily. This is the dignity of a man." Zhang Feng knew that this set of advanced words would not be understood by the children in this feudal era who could not even fill their stomachs. However, it did not matter. Although he had been kicked, Gozi was still laughing excitedly. His black teeth made Zhang Feng unable to look straight at him. When the 3 little fellows behind him heard that it was 10 copper coins, their eyes widened like copper coins. Seeing this, Gozi bared his teeth and waved his fist. "Brother Zhang Feng, I just heard from the eunuch who was washing the toilet in the pure fragrance workshop that someone from Zhenla's side came here yesterday. I heard that it was King Zhenla who personally came to the Tang Dynasty to sign a contract. I heard from His Majesty that our good days are coming," Gozi said excitedly. It was as if they were looking at the beautiful scenery of a golden age. Hearing this, Zhang Feng nodded. He took out half a string of money and threw it to the dog. "Scram, scram, scram. Go and take a bath for me. It stinks." There were at least 50 coins and half a string of money. In an instant, the 4 children smiled brightly like flowers. They thanked Zhang Feng gratefully and squatted on the ground to divide the coins one by one. After that, Gozi sucked his snot bubbles and stared at Zhang Feng with a silly smile. Zhang Feng pointed at the tavern with his palm leaf fan speechlessly. "Go, it's on the counter of the tavern. Go and get it yourself." Those were Lao Li's clothes. Zhang Feng did not mind giving them away. These were simple and poor children who were still slaves. Basically, Zhang Feng's source of information depended on them. As for these little fellows, they basically relied on Zhang Feng's leftovers and the money he gave them to feed their entire family. Regarding this, Zhang Feng did not have the slightest bit of psychological burden. He was a modern man. He could not bear to see people like this. Especially these children. Basically, they were the same age as his younger brother in his previous life. Looking at them holding the money and running back happily, Zhang Feng smiled knowingly. "Brother, are you okay over there? Remember to take good care of Lao Tzu's parents?" "Brother?" The sudden call of "brother" made Zhang Feng tremble. He rubbed his eyes and looked over. Only then did he see Gozi holding the clothes in his hands and looking at him in shock. Zhang Feng's eyes moistened. Then he shouted impatiently, "What's wrong? Why aren't you leaving? Are you waiting for Lao Tzu to cook for you?" "No, brother, this clothes. If you take it to the pawn shop, it can be sold for at least 30 coins. Scram, scram, scram. That was thrown away by someone else. I said I'll give it to you, so I'll give it to you. Lao Tzu, I don't lack that money." Gozi left. However, he no longer had his usual cheeky smile. Instead, he shrugged his shoulders. When he turned the corner, he even knelt on the ground and kowtowed 3 times to Zhang Feng. "Brother, I, son Gozi, will repay your life-saving grace with my sister's life in the future." Although the money and the shabby clothes were really nothing to him, he still had a lot of money. But what he didn't know was that these youths that he had inadvertently saved out of boredom today, when he set foot on that land 10 years later, these youths had really risked their lives to save him from a pile of corpses. Among them, even though Gozi's lower body was chopped off, he still used his mouth and hands to save the unconscious Zhang Feng. Chapter 164. The small tavern was still as lonely as it was in the beginning. Rich people looked down on such a vulgar and dilapidated place, and poor people could not enter. On the contrary, the entrance of Zhang Feng's shop became a paradise for wild children. When they had nothing to do, these children would gather beside Zhang Feng and listen to his stories. They knew that Zhang Feng loved cleanliness, and it was summer now. Before these children came, they would go to the river outside the city to wash themselves clean before coming. They even wanted to peel off the layer of skin on their bodies. Sometimes, when they caught some snakes in the wild, some wild game, or even a big turtle by the river, Zhang Feng would make a pot of tempting delicacies as if he was performing magic. And they would be able to get a delicious meal and a few copper coins. Sometimes when Zhang Feng was happy he would even reward them with an ingot of silver. Everyone did not fight for it and just sat on the ground to share the spoils. The people of the Tang dynasty were also strange. Zhang Feng felt that it was very strange. Even if one of them caught a long worm, snake, in a large group of people, if you gave him money he would share it equally with his friends. This kind of spirit made Zhang Feng very touched. Sometimes, when there was no information that Zhang Feng needed for a day, they would climb up the treetops or squat at the city gate. They would stare at the city gate with their eyes wide open to see if there were any high-ranking officials, nobles, or prostitutes. The bearded man came. Sometimes, when there was no information at all, these children would even squat in the corner and cry. Perhaps this was a kind of spirit. It was a spirit that modern society had forgotten. However, Zhang Feng did not care. No amount of gold could buy his happiness. Anyway, he was not worried about making money. With the money that Lao Li and the others gave him, plus the money that he robbed Prince Jinla last time, even if he spent it in 8 lifetimes, he would not be able to spend it all. Therefore he was also very generous. Business? Business? My ass. If it were not for Lao Li and the others, Lao Tzu would have closed the door and slept. Even if someone came because of his reputation, there was only one word. Get lost. Lao Tzu did not serve him. However, for this group of children, now Zhang Feng was more like the king of children. These children surrounded Zhang Feng and relied on him for food. Zhang Feng knew this, but he didn't care. If he could help one person, he would help one person. It was too boring. Most importantly, it was too boring. Brother? Big brother Zhang Feng. I have good news. Just as Zhang Feng was half awake from his daydream, a sturdy young man hurriedly ran up to him. Seeing that Zhang Feng had woken up with a start, Gozi was furious. He threw the cattail leaf fan in his hand to a skinny monkey next to him, then went up and hammered him. Damn it! Can't you see that brother Zhang Feng is sleeping? Were you chased away by a ghost? *CK your mother. I'll kill you. Doggy. Zhang Feng rubbed his sleepy eyes and ordered Gozi to leave. That young man seemed to know that he had been too rash. Although his clothes were already tattered from the beating and were now in tatters, he still licked his lips and apologized. Zhang Feng was speechless. Was he such a lowly person? Alright, tell me. What did you find out? Brother, I heard the night watchman say that the Emperor Emeritus's birthday is on the day of the Dragon Boat Festival. Tubo's people seem to want to ask the Emperor for help today. Tubo finally couldn't take it anymore? Zhang Feng curled the corner of his mouth slightly. This group of monkeys was very smart. They must have seen that the Tang dynasty had signed a trade contract with Zhenla, so they couldn't take it anymore. But they couldn't take it anymore? If the Emperor wasn't an idiot, Tubo would definitely be cheated to death this time. Anything else? Zhang Feng asked with interest. No. By the way, I heard that Tuyuhun's people are also following behind. I don't know what they want to do. Zhang Feng nodded. Finally, he fumbled in his clothes and threw the most expensive silver ingot to Gozi. He stared at him and said, Go and apologize to Zhu Zi. Why did you hit him? Today you'll get half of your money as a punishment. Oh. Gozi pursed his lips and didn't care. He waved his hand. In an instant, 8 half-grown children squatted on the ground and used the spindle on the ground to throw the silver ingot. Then they divided the silver ingot bit by bit. In the end, they couldn't divide the silver ingot and ran away with Gozi. They seemed to be going to the bank to exchange for copper coins. Looking at Gozi's new straw sandals and new linen clothes, Zhang Feng yawned and turned over to continue watching. But a moment later he was so hot that he rolled over and cursed. He went into the tavern while cursing. Damn kid, he's so greedy for money. Now that he has money, he doesn't care about Lao Tzu anymore? Although he was cursing, Zhang Feng didn't care at all. It was just 10 taels of silver. But even if he didn't care, someone else did. Just as Zhang Feng was about to close the door of the tavern, a smelly man like a black tower blocked the door with a plop. He asked in shock, Shopkeeper, did you lose this silver ingot? As he spoke, the iron-towering man's hands trembled as he lifted a piece of flattened silver ingot and some scattered pieces of silver high up in front of Zhang Feng. Zhang Feng scratched his head. Who are you? Why do you have the silver ingot that I gave to Gozi? If you dare to take it, believe it or not. Without waiting for him to finish, the man like an iron tower knelt on the ground and asked in a choked voice, Shopkeeper, did you really give this money to Zhu Zi? This was a simple Tang person. Zhang Feng hurriedly tried to help the man up, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't help the man up. Zhang Feng was so angry that he pointed at the man and shouted, I gave it to him. What's wrong? Are you trying to extort money? No, benefactor. I am Zhu Zi's father. Previously, Zhu Zi brought back money from time to time. I didn't know where he got it from. Today I finally know. But the money today is too much. I don't deserve it. Get lost. I gave this money to Zhu Zi and the others, not to you. If you don't want it, Lao Tzu won't give it to you. Give it back to Zhu Zi. Otherwise, Lao Tzu will report you to the authorities and put you in jail. After saying that, Zhang Feng didn't even bother to close the door. He dragged the recliner and walked into the kitchen, ignoring the man. The man choked with sobs. His whole body trembled as he kowtowed a few times. Then he gently wiped the place where he just knelt, closed the door and left. Benefactor, thank you. Chapter 165. The man left. Zhang Feng didn't have much psychological burden. It was still the same sentence. This was a deal, a business deal. He thought it was worth it and he would give as much money as he wanted. He never cared about money. This thing, he couldn't bring it with him when he was born, nor could he bring it with him when he died. If he didn't use it, what should he do? Throw it away? He wasn't stupid. Moreover, he knew that Zhu Zi's father was a man with a hard life. Although the news this time was useless, it was enough to hear about it. Moreover, he really couldn't bear to see this. He did all this for no other reason than to help as much as he could within his power. This was enough. As for what others said, he couldn't care less. Coming out of the kitchen, he prepared a big bowl of noodles, opened the door, squatted at the door of the small tavern, and ate it noisily. However, at this moment, a pair of dark little hands held an egg and held it in front of Zhang Feng. Accompanied by the sound of swallowing saliva, she said charmingly, "Brother, mother said that this egg is for you." Zhang Feng was dumbfounded. He raised his head, sucked the noodles into his mouth and looked carefully. An 8-year-old little girl wearing tattered clothes, and even some clothes that didn't cover her body, was looking at him timidly. Zhang Feng's nose twitched. How could he still eat? Looking at the egg, which was still warm, Zhang Zian smiled. Looking at the little girl, he asked, "What's your name?" "I don't have a name. My mother called me Steamed Bun. She said that it's easy to raise." The woman's timid words made Zhang Fengji deeply shocked. Looking at a woman hiding in the dark not far away, Zhang Feng touched Steamed Bun's head. Seeing that she was still staring at his bowl and swallowing saliva, Zhang Feng asked, "Steamed Bun, are you hungry?" "I'm not hungry. Steamed Bun only had a bowl of porridge yesterday. Let's go. Brother will treat you to a big meal." Zhang Feng was speechless. What the hell was he talking about? He couldn't say anything. He threw the bowl away and carried the Steamed Bun into the tavern. Then he put her on a stool and said, "Don't run around. No matter who comes, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid or I will get angry." Steamed Bun seemed to be very scared. He looked timidly at the woman at the corner of the street outside the door and the grimacing youth. He sat quietly at the table and swallowed his saliva as he smelled the fragrance in the air. After a while, Zhang Feng came in with a big bowl of rice, a big bowl of braised pork and a lot of scattered braised meat and other messy things. He put them on the table and said, "Steamed Bun, big brother will treat you to a meal. Eat quickly. If you can't finish it, you have to bring it back." She would not be able to finish the steamed buns even if she was stuffed to death. However, he still took out everything that could be taken out of the store. Not for anything else but to be happy. An egg. After the emperor listed chickens and ducks as important objects of protection, these things were very precious. How could ordinary people be willing to eat them? However, she still brought it over. In fact, he saw Zhu Zi, his father and his mother. Although Zhu Zi's father pretended that nothing had happened and walked past him, his eyes could not fool Zhang Feng. She was Zhu Zi's sister. In a slave's family, the old hen that laid eggs was their lifeblood. They could not bear to part with it. Only this egg was the only gift they could give. Looking at the steamed bun wolfing down the food, Zhang Feng looked at her and smiled until he cried. Steamed Bun foolishly wiped his lips with the back of his pitch-black hand. He took out the egg from his pocket and handed it to Zhang Feng. "Big brother, you eat too. Big brother is not hungry. Didn't you see that big brother just ate a big bowl? His stomach is so full that it flipped over." As he spoke, Steamed Bun forced the egg into Zhang Feng's hand. "Big brother, eat it tonight. Or eat it during the new year. Steamed Bun has never eaten this before. I heard that this is very delicious. Okay. Big brother will keep it for the new year." Steamed Bun ate very quickly. Zhang Feng looked at Steamed Bun carefully. The hand holding the egg was so hot that it was trembling. He had been at a loss before. But today he knew what he had to do. He had to set up a cooperative. If Lao Li did not come tomorrow, Lao Tzu would beat the drum and look for him all over the city. Damn it, no one could stop Lao Tzu from setting up the cooperative this time. Even if the emperor came, Lao Tzu would not be able to get it out. Zhang Feng was excited. He had mentioned the cooperative before. It seemed that Zhang Sun Wuji was very concerned about it. Even the emperor was very concerned about it. However, for some reason there had been no movement. Perhaps it was preparing for Jinla and the Emperor Emeritus Christmas? But Zhang Feng could not wait any longer. There were so many people hungry now. He could not bear it. He had to set up a cooperative. Otherwise, with the current economic situation of the Tang Dynasty, even if the Yu8 Jinla opened up a mutual exchange, it would be useless. No money. And in this way would Tubo be a vegetarian? If you don't have money, others will take care of it for you. How would you make any money? Not only that, all the plans he had made before would be ruined. A single egg suddenly made Zhang Feng feel that something was wrong. Steamed bun ate very quickly. As if she was afraid that she would disturb Zhang Feng by smacking her lips, she basically swallowed when eating. Her small face was red. Zhang Feng smiled and rubbed steamed bun's head. He watched her burp and put down the small bowl. Zhang Feng put down a full bowl of rice and a bowl of vegetables and roared, "Zhuzi, get over here." Chapter 166. Zhuzi heard this. He couldn't stand it anymore. Looking at his sister eating the meat bite by bite, he was greedy. His saliva was like water in a smelly ditch, flowing all over the floor. Seeing Zhang Feng shouting, he hurriedly ran to the door of the restaurant, but he refused to enter. "Brother Zhang Feng, hey your ass. Come, bring the food back for your sister. This food is rotten, it's useless." Zhuzi was stunned. Looking at the table full of delicious food, he stopped drooling. He thought that Zhang Feng was angry. He was about to scold his sister. "Steamed bun. See how I'll deal with you when we get back. I only asked you to send an egg, how did you provoke brother Zhang Feng? Shut up. If you dare to talk, Lao Tzu will beat you to death." Zhang Feng scolded impatiently, "Steamed bun is my sister now. If you dare to bully her, I'll break your leg. Take the food and go. Lao Tzu wants to take a nap." How could Zhuzi not know Zhang Feng's temper? He had a sharp tongue but a soft heart. Once he decided on something, he wouldn't change it even if he died. Hearing Zhang Feng's words, Zhuzi's parents, who were eavesdropping outside the door, hurriedly knelt in front of the restaurant and cried in grief. "Shopkeeper, we are your—" All right, get up, don't kneel. Lao Tzu isn't dead yet. I'm sleepy, let's go. Also, I'll acknowledge steamed bun as my sister. Since you feel bad, then this meal will be my acknowledgement gift. Zhuzi, get the wine." Zhuzi laughed silly. Brother Zhang Feng actually wanted to acknowledge his sister as his sister? This was a blessing from the heavens. Zhuzi's parents kowtowed at the entrance of the restaurant again. Zhang Feng was speechless. "The two of you, are you trying to send me away? If you continue to kneel, I'll change my mind." "Zhuzi, steamed bun, take the food away. Don't block my door. Alright, take your wine too." Originally, Zhang Feng wanted to open a jar of wine or ask Zhuzi's father to drink a bowl of wine. But looking at his cowardly appearance, Zhang Feng was not in the mood and simply sent them off. "Take these as my payment for the eggs." As Zhuzi's father knelt down and closed the door for Zhang Feng held the egg and spoke slowly. After a while it was quiet outside the door. Zhang Feng sighed deeply and stared at the egg in a daze. However, at this moment, creaking sounds could be heard. The door was pushed open. Zhang Feng habitually roared, "Mother***, are you done yet? Laoli? Why are you here?" He was about to scold her. But when he turned around, it was actually Li Shimin, whom he had not seen for many days, who appeared at the door. Zhang Feng immediately shut his mouth. "What's wrong with you?" Li Shimin looked at Zhang Feng speechlessly. He was scolded before he even entered the door. Although he knew that he was not being scolded, he was still speechless. Moreover, he had already seen the scene from the outside. Actually, he did not want to come just now. His nose was sour and he wanted to turn around and leave. But when he thought of what happened over there, he had to bite the bullet and come in. He had to pretend that he did not see anything. Could he pretend that he did not see anything? No way. Those are his people. He also felt that it was very embarrassing to be an emperor in this position. But he felt that Zhang Feng's way of doing things was a little novel. He had asked these people before and they were all slaves. In the eyes of ordinary people, these people were the lowest of the low. But Zhang Feng didn't have that many rules. Zhang Feng was too lazy to clean the table. He placed the egg on an exquisite wine jar and placed it high above the counter under the signboard. This scene could not help but make Li Shimin curious. "Brother Zhang Feng, this is not an egg. It's a favor." Zhang Feng's voice was very calm. Laoli, do you know? This egg, do you know what it means to a slave family who can't even fill their stomachs? This egg is probably the cost of a day's worth of food for their entire family. But because of a little favor, they resolutely took it out and gave it to me. It was just to thank me for giving them a little wage. Li Shimin was silent. What could he say? What could he say now? Everything was because they were too poor. He also wanted everyone to be rich and no longer have to go hungry. But all of this was an extravagant hope. There was still a long way to go. Brother Zhang Feng, I know what you're thinking. I know what you've done during this period of time. But as a businessman, the only thing I can do is to make sure that the people around me don't go hungry as long as it's within my power. Then I'll bring good fortune to them. I know you don't like money, but you value money as much as your life. I know you are doing your best to help them, but look at Chang and City, then look at the Tang Dynasty. Until recently, when I happened to see a few kids loitering in front of my shop, I realized that there are still people going hungry in this so-called prosperous era. So, I have decided. Zhang Feng's voice suddenly became louder. Laoli, are we brothers? Yes. Then, from today onwards, immediately go to Zhangsun Wuji and restart the cooperative plan. Li Shimin was shocked and hurriedly asked, Master Zhang, you can't do this. Now that everything is not ready, you... No, everything is ready. We only need one thing. Chapter 167. Li Shimin was silent. Before he came. In these few days, the trade between the Tang Dynasty and Jinla had already begun. After King Jinla received the news, he rushed from Jinla to Chang and City in 6 days and signed a 100-year contract with him. Although Li Shimin wanted to sign the contract for a few hundred years in one go. However, he also knew that King Jinla was an old fox. If he spoke too harshly, it would make him suspicious. Therefore, he was only willing to sign a 50-year contract at first. However, King Jinla pestered him and finally settled on a 100-year contract. Just like that. The Ministry of Works did a detailed calculation on the list of goods brought by King Jinla this time. King Jinla had completely gone crazy. Or perhaps he was afraid of starvation. Almost all of Jinla's troops were mobilized to deliver the goods. If it weren't for King Jinla swearing and using himself as a hostage to guarantee that they were only here to deliver the goods, Li Shimin would have already sent his troops. And it was precisely because of King Jinla's madness. Li Shimin felt the pressure. The people from the Ministry of Works calculated for 2 days and 2 nights. The final amount was as high as 50 million taels of gold. This put Li Shimin in a difficult position. Now he was so poor that he even had to scrimp when he could. He thought that he could struggle for a while with the 40 million taels of gold, but now he was dumbfounded. He didn't even have enough money for the first batch of goods. If he didn't think of a way quickly when people came and asked for money, he would be embarrassed. Not only would it be embarrassing, but King Jinla might also do something stupid in his anger. Money. When it was time to use it, he regretted not having enough. Fortunately, King Jinla wanted food, but Li Shimin also knew that there would be a locust plague next year. How could he be willing to give? After arguing for a long time, the final agreement was that the Dragon Boat Festival would be half money and half food. However, even so, Li Shimin's Dragon Boat Festival would not be peaceful. Seeing that his father's birthday was about to be celebrated, he encountered this problem again. He originally wanted to resolve the conflict during his father's birthday and use this matter to make his father happy. Now, it was already a blessing from the heavens that the old man was not sent away. In the end, Li Shimin avoided Tubo and Tuyuhun's request to see him and quietly left the palace to seek advice from Zhang Feng. But looking at it now, what kind of idea was this? Brother Zhang Feng, I know how you feel right now, but calm down first. Calm? I'm very calm. I've never been so calm. Zhang Feng was angry. Did this guy think that he was being impulsive? With a wave of his hand, he interrupted Li Shimin's nagging and said, Laoli, believe it or not, I know why you came to see me today. Believe it or not. I don't believe it. Li Shimin shook his head like a rattle drum. Fine. I knew you wouldn't believe it. Zhang Feng rolled up his sleeves and said, Actually, I do know why you're here. You're here because of Jinla's matter, right? And I also know that Jinla was anxious this time. For the first time he gave you something that you couldn't eat, right? You don't have enough money. How did you know? Li Shimin's eyes were as wide as copper coins. Asked. He had never mentioned this matter before. Zhang Feng smiled mysteriously. How did I know? I know everything. Do you believe it or not? I don't believe it. Li Shimin curled his lips. Previously he really believed that Zhang Feng had guessed it, but now he knew that this guy was definitely guessing. Otherwise, how could he know what happened in the palace when he was in the tavern? Zhang Feng's mood recovered at this time. He took a jar of the strongest wine from the counter, took out 2 big bowls, filled them, and handed them to Li Shimin, saying, "This matter has spread like wildfire in Chang'an City, and I was the one who instigated this matter. How could I not know? Let me tell you. King Zhenla came to see the emperor this time, right? Don't say that Zhang Sun Wuji didn't inform you about this matter. Did King Zhenla go crazy and use the power of the whole country to bring all the people who could sell it?" Li Shimin was stunned. "How did you know?" "Hey, this is habitual thinking. Think about it. If you were afraid of being poor, and suddenly someone said that the place where you sleep is full of treasures, wouldn't you want to tear down that piece of land and sell it to that person? It seems that this is the truth." Li Shimin's face slowly became dignified at this time. Everything was exactly as Zhang Feng said. "Brother Zhang Feng, to tell you the truth, I also have a deal with Zhenla, but this guy wants to sell Zhenla to me. I don't have enough money now. And the contract has been signed. If I go back on my word, I'm afraid that I'll do something desperate." Li Shimin stopped pretending. He hurriedly asked, "What should we do now? If this matter is messed up, King Zhenla will say it to the emperor, and I will be completely finished." Zhang Feng looked at Li Shimin with some contempt. "Now you know how to be anxious. What were you doing earlier? Don't you know that haste makes waste? It's not that I'm anxious. It's that bastard King Zhenla who cheated. Otherwise, who would know that he brought all the things he could sell? This time I'm in big trouble. King Zhenla wants to show off his power to the Tang Dynasty." "No, there's still hope." Zhang Feng smiled faintly. He pointed to the wine bowl. "As long as you finish this bowl of wine, I'll tell you the way." Li Shimin glanced at the big bowl and smelled the pungent smell of wine. Before he drank it, his eyes were stung by the smell of wine. His eyelids couldn't help but twitch. This guy wanted to take revenge. That night, was it not enough that I personally put on clothes for him and made his bed for him? In this world, even the empress didn't have such treatment. However, Li Shimin couldn't say it out loud. He said faintly, "Don't think that I don't know. You said it was a cooperative, didn't you? As soon as I came in, you wanted to trick me into drinking and get me drunk, right?" Chapter 168. Li Shimin looked at Zhang Feng with disdain. Zhang Feng could not help but go crazy. Why did he suddenly become enlightened? This was not right. Zhang Feng was a little frustrated. Hey, who told you to drink? I see that you are addicted to alcohol every time you come, so I let you drink a little to relieve the heat. Why are you treating my good intentions as ill intent?" How could Li Shimin believe him? He saw everything that Zhang Feng did just now. How could he not know what Zhang Feng was thinking? He was purely looking for someone to vent his anger on. As the ruler of a country, how could he not see through this? Forget it. I know you are upset, but don't be like this, okay? Come, I am also in a bad mood. Let's drink together. Alright, I will give you face and drink a bowl. Let's make it clear that this wine is on you. Lao Tzu has no money. Zhang Feng mumbled. He picked up the bowl of wine and took a big gulp. The spicy wine flowed down his throat like a knife, spreading from his mouth to his stomach. The burning sensation made Zhang Feng and Li Shimin's cheeks instantly red like blood. Ah, good wine. Li Shimin patted the wine jar, his eyes flickering. This wine, when I drank it before, it was like water. Why is it so strong this time? Zhang Feng curled his lips. How could it not be strong? This was unblended raw wine. Drinking too much of it would kill him. He was also feeling depressed and wanted to find someone to vent his frustrations on. However, this time Old Li was too cunning. This time he failed miserably. Zhang Feng took the opportunity to push the wine jar. This jar of wine was originally prepared for your father. Didn't you want to show your filial piety to your father? Take out this jar of wine at the birthday celebration. I guarantee that you will be in the limelight. Li Shimin's eyes widened. This wine would be in the limelight? This was something that could kill someone, alright? The wine of the Tang Dynasty was generally drunk like water. From fermented glutinous rice to grape wine to flour wine and fruit wine, which kind of wine was so strong? The army was all gulping down wine and eating meat. This was the first time they drank it. If they drank it the way they did before, then a bowl of wine would be enough to send more than half of those old fellows away. Li Shimin waved his hands. No. I appreciate your kind intentions, but I'll pass on the wine. Zhang Feng pursed his lips. Let me tell you something about this wine. The bowl of wine you drank just now is equivalent to a jar of the best wine in the Tang Dynasty. How much have you drunk? This is raw pulp without blending. You still say you didn't scam me? You're giving this to me? Li Shimon's eyes were red. Zhang Feng pursed his lips and ignored him. Actually, this wine was meant for you to show off at your birthday. I didn't say that you were going to drink it. What is this wine? It's a commodity. It's meant to let your father see something beyond his understanding. It's not meant for you to take it out and drink it. I'm taking it out today to show you the value of this wine. Although I don't know what kind of imperial wine the emperor drinks, I can guarantee that this thing is definitely dozens of grades better than the imperial wine. I was going to give you a dozen jars, enough for you to show off, but since you don't want it, I'll keep it for myself. I want it. Who said I don't want it? Li Shimon's eyes were red. He hurriedly hugged the wine jar in his arms and refused to let go. Zhang Feng only pursed his lips. Li Shimon sealed the wine and asked carefully, Brother Zhang, you're saying that this wine is a commodity to be used at the birthday? But if you don't drink it, are you going to take it out to show it off? And then push the matter of the cooperative to the public? Zhang Feng looked at Li Shimon in surprise and looked him up and down. Not bad. You can draw inferences from one case? Not bad. You've improved loudly. Although Li Shimon didn't know what he meant by drawing inferences from one case, he still enjoyed Zhang Feng's praise, although he felt a little uncomfortable. Li Shimon saw that Zhang Feng didn't speak, so he hurriedly asked, By the way, Brother Zhang, tell me about it. How should this cooperative be implemented? You should at least let me be prepared, right? When it came to business, Zhang Feng's expression became slightly dignified. This cooperative, as I told you before, is to stimulate economic recovery. It's a huge system. If it's used well, it's possible to benefit one party, or even the entire Tang dynasty. But if it fails loudly, you have to be prepared for failure. Losing your head would be a light punishment. Zhang Feng was very direct. Li Shimon also knew the importance of it. He sighed and said, I saw what you did outside just now. Do you think I don't want them to have clothes to wear and food to eat? I want to. But my ability is limited. If the cooperative is really as powerful as you said, then even if I have to be smashed to pieces, I will push it out. Moreover, I believe that many people, especially those rich businessmen and officials, will like to see this. After all, a lot of land in the Tang dynasty is in their hands. For example, Lord Zhang's son, I heard that the land in his hands is at least 1,000 mu. So, when you talked about the cooperative last time, I already had this idea.